What's up, everybody? Welcome to the MycoGeeky Podcast, the podcast that goes deep, oh so deep, very deep, depending upon the night, crazy deep, so that you can level up your at-home mycology game. I'm your host, MycoGeeky, and tonight, Monday, 9 p.m., here we go. We're going to do it. Super excited. You know, always love it when I get my old homies on here. So this guy, we have been friends for a good little while. I have known him through multiple Discord servers. He's on mine. He has got a nice, quaint Discord server of his own that if you are so lucky to be a member of, you are in very good company. Anyway, I'm talking about the one and only Whitebeard. He kind of makes his home on the open seas of mycology, but you can find him on Instagram, you can find him on Discord, and he's quite a guy. He has been growing for 24 plus years, I believe it is, and he has tried just about everything. You know, he's kind of like a slightly feral. He's been around the block. He's seen a lot of evolution, and learned a different way than we learn now, right? Like now we have so much technology, we see we just see it all right away. We can just, as long as we're willing to put in some time on YouTube or on the Shroomery or on Facebook groups, we can learn very rapidly now, and we're lucky, and it didn't always used to be that way. So, I always like bringing on guys like this so we get a sense of what it used to be like and how far we've come. Anyway, before we get into it, though, I want to give a shout out to my Patreon peeps. I have been pretty humbled and pretty blessed. I think we got over 30 people who've chosen to support me on Patreon, and as a result, it's getting, you know, like my StreamYard subscription paid for. It's allowing me to put into motion the work I got to do to start getting everything on Anchor and then on some of these other sites for just audio-only podcasting. So I appreciate that, guys. One of these days, once I get clearance from everybody, I don't want to shout people out if they don't want to be shouted out. So I got to get clearance first, and then we'll do some shout-outs. So again, thank you so much. And then just a little surprise, got a little extra money from the Patreon, so I am starting to use that to do very detailed timestamps on all the videos. So far I have the Dave Wombat podcast and the Yoshi Amano podcast are now timestamped. Slightly Feral, he actually had one of his supporters timestamp his podcast. So I got 3 so far. So far I have, I think, 4 or 5 in the works right now, with the goal being to get them all timestamped so that they can be referenced, you know, go down to the description. If you're like, man, what was that thing Good Fun Guy was talking about in his podcast? You can go back and you know, hopefully pretty quickly get to where you need to go. Hope that's helping everybody out down the road. And you guys have my Patreon supporters to thank for that. So thanks, guys. What else we got going on? Next week we got, just a neurosurgeon coming on. We're going to talk about how psilocybin works in the brain and why it's so amazing. Tonight we're going to talk with Ed Grand, continue our ongoing discussion about fungal barcoding and how to do it, why to do it, how to do it right, why to not do it wrong, and why maybe if you're really into mycology beyond just growing a couple fruits, this might be another evolution in that hobby. Anyway, so without further ado, I'm going to bring on the one and only. You don't meet too many like this guy. He is so nice. He is so kind. He is so helpful, and just a unique old school grower. Whitebeard, welcome to the show, buddy. Look at that, wearing a geeky shirt. Love you already.
Right there, buddy.
Oh,
Geeky
yes. Nice.
All day, every day.
Now, hold on. I gotta pull this up because, you know, I like my logo, but, some people, I'm like, get a little jealous. They got really cool logos, and Whitebeard's got a cool logo, guys. Check them out on Instagram. You'll recognize them if you're on Discord. You know, having that recognizable logo definitely helps out. So, and as you can see, his logo, he's not fronting. That's, as they say on the streets, he is not fronting. That's the real deal. He has got a white beard.
Yeah.
You got more. You don't so much have like the Santa Claus white beard. You got more like the ZZ Top white beard, which is my preference. So
yeah, I hear that a lot.
very cool. All right, man. Well, thanks for being on.
Hell yeah.
We've been friends for a while, and I'm always love to have my friends on, and especially people who have been growing as long as you have. Did I get it right? 24 years?
I'm guessing. So I think it was 99. I think that's
Okay.
but that was spring of 99. So I think we're coming up on 24 years.
Coming up on it. Okay. Look at that.
Yeah.
He's so honest, guys. He won't even take the extra year. I love it. Anyway, but so so when you started growing, let's just get right into it. You weren't like watching YouTube videos to figure out how to grow, right?
I don't even think YouTube existed back then.
I don't think so. So how did let's tell the story. How you got into growing mushrooms? Who maybe helped you out? Where you learned, stuff from in the beginning, like the early years. Let's walk through that.
Okay. Yeah. I had just gotten out of the Army and in '98, and I had met this woman that was living down the street from me, probably about 2 blocks from me.
Okay.
And super bohemian style, really cool. Her name was Sunshine, and I thought that was like a nickname, but no, it's her real name. Her parents were hippies, and I wouldn't say she was quite so much a hippie herself, but very bohemian-esque, like
Sure.
the long hair down, wearing sundresses kind of stuff, like to be barefoot, and she had a oh god, what do you call them? My brain just shut down. The outdoor grow rooms for plants. Greenhouse. She had a greenhouse.
Okay.
And at first it was just I'd heard from some of the people that lived in my neighborhood that if I wanted mushrooms, that's who to go to, And
Right.
back in the day there wasn't even talk about utilizing psilocybin as a supplement for PTSD or
Right.
any kind of stuff like that. It was just drugs, that's what
It
they
was a
referred
drug.
to as
Yeah. It
drugs.
was a drug.
And so I hit her up, and then it was one of those things to where like if you had a pot dealer or something like that, and you went and got you some, and then you kind of hung out at the house with them
Right.
and smoked out with them. Well, I tripped with her a few times, and we kind of had a little bit of a kinship, and
Nice.
I started asking her some questions about basically like, well, not like I'm trying to cut you out or anything, but where do you get these? And she said,
Right.
shit, right out back. I grow them right out back. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. She said the thing about it though is that you can only grow them twice a year, in the spring and in the fall, and you got a really, really small window. It probably not like this in a lot of other states, but here in South Texas, down by Mexico, we live literally at the water,
Right.
and the heat is something else. It's really something else, and is very non-conducive to being able to grow mushrooms. This was back. Neither had she. Nobody I knew had ever heard of indoor cultivation.
Wow.
That came several years later,
Wow.
So,
Okay.
she was basically making a mixture of like potting soil and peat moss, and just making a real nutrient-rich, something you would expect, a mixture you would expect to find like on a forest floor or something like that.
Sure. Hmm.
And she just kept, every time she had a successful grow, she would keep the spores.
Right.
She'd make spore prints, but they weren't on foil, they were on paper, like notebook paper.
Wow. Right.
And it was very interesting, learning that way. There were a lot of failure.
Yeah,
Like,
and
a
so
lot.
she was really, she was just figuring it out, right?
Well, no, I think
Did
I
she have
think
a mentor who like coached her or?
we never really talked much about that,
Oh,
but
okay.
I think she kind of had what she could do down pretty pat.
Mhm.
Like the level of contaminants and failure was just one of those things that was a given.
Right.
You're not really in a controlled environment. It's a greenhouse.
Right.
So, she had other plants growing in there, and it wasn't specifically and only for mushrooms. And like I said, there was a lot of failure, but it was one of those calculated things. Like I'm expecting to fail a lot, and I'll just be happy with anything,
Right.
But she got mushrooms. You know, it worked. It didn't
Nice.
work anywhere near the efficacy rate is nothing like it is for indoor grow.
Right.
But it worked. You know, so she had a little window twice a year where the weather was nice enough and she could get her stuff done. You know.
Wow.
So that's where she taught me from. Her name was.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say her name was Sunshine?
Sunshine, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah, she'll probably never see this, but just in case by some wild chance she does, I'd like her to know I'd do her a little shout out, you know.
Hey, just a little sunshine is all it took to have Whitebeard set on his path.
There you
I
go.
think that's great. Now, you wear shoes though, right?
Sometimes.
Okay, okay.
I'm kind of
you
redneck.
said it's hot
so
down
there's-
there, so
Yeah, I probably, if I wear shoes, unless I'm at work, of course I'll wear boots at
Right.
work, but if I'm not at work, chances are if I'm wearing anything, which I'm probably not, but if I am, it would be like Crocs.
sure.
I'm that guy.
Man, I live in northern Ohio, and there's 6 inches of snow out, and I still, when I take the garbage out, I'm still wearing my flip flops. So I get it.
Oh, yeah.
I get it. Comfort over temperature, I guess, is how I am.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she kind of got you going. She set the tone, and so your early grows, were they also outside? Were you basically mirroring what she was doing?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nice.
It was probably, I'd say, a good. Geez, I don't even know what to guesstimate at that until Shroomery came out. You know, I was there for pretty much its infancy.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And you know, that's where we started really learning about you know, indoor cultivation, things along those lines, and I just kind of ran the gambit, you know, like just using text that people were posting and but sticking to them, you know, like giving
Right.
it the 100%. I wasn't trying to mix text or anything like that. It was just um, you know, run it through, see how well it works, if you like it, how feasible is it for you to continue using
Right.
that tech, and then even if it was good, move on to the next one anyway, just to give them all a run. See,
Right.
well, because there wasn't a million and one techs back then, you know. It's
Yeah,
a little
I
different
think-
today.
Wumbo Myco, who's obviously a child, he's so young compared to me and you. He said that early on in Shroomery, he's like, you know, you'd read something, it wasn't really a tech. He was like, it was just like a thing a guy did, and you had to decide whether you were going to try this thing the guy was doing. And so, yeah, that makes sense. You know, you had to give it all a college try, and it's not like now where we have guys like you and Dave Wombat and Slightly Feral to go, oh yeah, you know, we did that in 1984 and we did this in 2001 and we did, you know, like now we have some perspective on everything, whereas back then you guys had to work real hard and deal with a lot, you know, overcome a lot of contamination, adversity. So it really shows the dedication and passion and the love for the fruit for sure.
Well, back then there was just a lot less info. Like, I'm
Yeah.
talking 1,000th of the info
Right.
that's available today. Again, I there may have been some kind of message boards that existed before Shroomery, but I had never heard of them.
Right.
You know, but that doesn't say much because I'm kind of old and I don't do a whole lot that the younger guys are doing, and you know, technology wise and all that. So, you know, like
Well, he
Shroomery-
says that, guys, but he's on Discord, which my young cousin back in Michigan, where I'm from, you know, we're out at the amusement park, and she's like, Uncle Geeky, why are you on Discord? That's for us. What are you doing on there? So, all right, so you know, you are doing some of the stuff the youngsters are doing.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
But until when I met you, Geeky, in
Mhm.
Munchausen's Discord,
Yeah.
that was the first time I had ever even known that there was a mic-related community on Discord.
Right.
Like, I was absolutely ignorant. I didn't know that there was anything mushroom related on Instagram, which I had never had Instagram. You're the one that talked me into that. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah.
Or Facebook or even Reddit. I didn't know
Now it's everywhere.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Name a now it's on TikTok. Everybody's bugging me. Geeky, why aren't you on TikTok? Crap, I mean, there's a limit. I got 3 kids, guys. I can only do so much. Yeah.
So I feel really late to the game, you know.
But it's fun, right? They all have their pluses and minuses. There's a benefit to each, and you know, if you can be on as many of them as you can, it incorporates you into that community that much better. Because again, I say this all the time, but otherwise you're just like this lonely person in your basement or your backyard, and you know, most of your family and friends do not want to talk about mushrooms as much as you do. And so it's great to have, or at all, my wife at all.
Well, I'm fortunate for that. My girl is interested, and she actually
Cool.
plays around a bit with me in the lab, so I feel very fortunate for that.
Well, we're not going to get into you guys playing around in the lab, but but I let's continue our discussion. So early life, we've been hearing this a lot. You know, the early shroomery was a lot of these, you know, lonely islands of mushroom growers starting to talk about how they do things. People get to try things out. Slowly over time now we're developing actual techs. You know, this is my tech for this. Many people have done it. Seems to be a good tech. Flash forward to now. And, you know, some techs are, you know, bucket tech is kind of like, you know, gospel. And there are many other ways to skin a cat for that. But, you know, some techs have really just sort of solidified themselves as a way to do it. And then others, like grain prep, are still all over the place.
Very true.
Yeah. So anyway, so let's walk through. We're going to ultimately get to bags because I know you're a bag guy, and in the cube community, there's sort of a, you know, either you're a bag guy or you're a tub guy, or maybe you're, you know, you play for both teams, so to speak.
Well, now they got that new one where they're spawning into little mini tubs and then putting those mini tubs into the bags.
Right.
So it's like a hybrid.
Bag in a tub in a bag, bag in a tub. Yeah. Okay, so let's just start at the very beginning. You pour agar. You work your mycelium on plates. Walk me through kind of what you do. Do you only work with LC to plates? Do you only germinate from spore? Like, kind of talk to me about your genetics on the plate game.
Okay. For many years, I got kind of sick of germination and just kind of had I just kept my cultures alive and, you know, used them that way. But I'd say here in the last couple years, I've really been trying to go back to spore, you know, start from the beginning. I've had some excellent, amazing genetics that I've gotten from you know, these guys that work genetics all over Instagram and Discord and all that, and I keep a backup of their cut for sure. You know, like I'm not throwing that away just because I don't know how much work I put in. Is it going to turn out? Is the fruit, you know, what do they say? Is the juice worth the squeeze kind of thing?
Yep.
But I do. I'll grow out whatever I get from them and you know, swab it out and start over and try to make my own cut of whatever it is we're playing with. And that a lot of that has to do with not only do I very much enjoy working the genetics now, but also I have had a couple of cultures. Oh my goodness, I can't, again, brain shut down. What is it when senescence? I've had a couple senesce on me, you know, and that's also a pretty hot topic that a lot of people were talking about, I'm guessing probably 6 months to a year ago. And I don't think a lot of people really know what that looks like. And it's very recognizable. Like
yeah, to me you can even see it on the plate, like it starts, or just a vigorous strain. All of a sudden, you're like, "What is going on here?" And you think it's is there contamination or something like that, and it just piddles out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, taking it back to taking it back to spore is kind of my backup to that not happening to my cultures.
Right.
You get a fresh genetic pool to start over with, and do your magic, man. See what you could do with it.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
I like both of them. I love seeing something on Instagram, falling in love with it, getting it, growing it. Most of the time, it's pretty close. It's definitely disappointing if it's not, or it's very inconsistent. Then you feel a little let down, like, oh well, my starry night
almost
did
a
not
little
look
cheated,
like.
right?
A little cheated, yes.
Yeah.
But of course, then anything you love, even like ODPE, I got a great ODPE from Fungi Guru. I loved it. I grew some just incredible looking tubs, but I really, as soon as you really love a cultigen, you want to start messing with it yourself. You're like, okay, cool. I appreciate what I got from this person, and now I'm gonna keep taking it back to spore for a while and see where we go. And yeah, I feel like that's how you can, you can make it your own and discover potentially something cool.
I agree. When you're pheno hunting and finding those interesting morphologies, you have opportunities to maybe come across something that the original cultivator didn't. Yep. And or maybe they did come across a similar morphology, but that wasn't necessarily what they were looking for, but it's really interesting to you.
Yep.
So
yep.
It's a lot of fun to me. I've spoken to quite a few people in the community about cultivating, and it disheartens me to hear when they talk about it as though like it's a chore or a job.
Right. Yeah.
And
I just saw a post today. It was, I hate pouring agar, and I was like, well, you could just buy agar, dude. Like, if you really hate it, just buy it from somebody. Don't do a post about how bad you hate it. Like,
right?
Don't do it.
Well,
I'm with you. Yeah.
Maybe they're hoping somebody will throw them some freebies.
Man, on the socials, you never know. The pandering the pandering game is pretty impressive there.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, but it's I'd say the entire process from beginning to end, it's really a zen for me. Like,
I'm with you, dude. It's a flow state. It's like, yeah. I mean, right there, poured agar today. I didn't hate it one bit.
Hell yeah.
I think if I was doing it 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, maybe I'd have a different opinion. But I love the cyclic nature of the hobby. There's, it's a little different all the time.
I mean, if I was pouring plates like P-Funk, I'd probably hate it.
Right. Or
that guy's a monster.
Yeah.
All that agar he pours.
Our buddy P-Funk, he pours a lot. And then, hold on, I'm going to pull this up here real quick. Give me a second to navigate my buttons here. Yeah, so our buddy Tim at Tip of the Cat Mushrooms, who, if you need plates, this guy is really just about the... I don't know anybody who pours better plates than this guy. But he goes, agar pouring be like, Now, this guy has poured, I mean, I'm certain we're at well over a million plates. He's pouring thousands of plates almost daily, so... And then now here we go. Look, P-Funk. P-Funk is here. Where is he? Where'd he go? Hold on. P-Funk, I love it. He still loves it. Get another million in. We'll see how you feel then. But,
hell yeah. Yeah, Tim, I have never purchased from him, mainly because
you pour.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I do everything myself, so there's really no... But I have referred several people to him, and they'll send me pictures of what they receive, and I gotta say, that's pretty damn professional. And I don't mean just the pour itself, but
it's perfect.
Like the packaging,
it's
the everything. Like, I was just like, wow, this guy really gives a shit about his product and getting it to you, and the presentation and all of that.
He's the gold standard. I think there are a few guys out there that are pouring at that level, but boy, oh boy, the plates are great. So shout out to Tim at Tip of the Cap Mushrooms. He's now located in Lansing, Michigan, and gets to hang out with Dan Rogers, Micropose all day, and I don't know what they do. Maybe they have like a basketball hoop in their office. They just play basketball all day. I don't know. I know they're working their butts off all day.
Right. You just brought that up, and I would like to, since you said it, I would like to say, Micropose for my jar lids all the way, bro, all the way. Those PTFE hydrophobic filter discs with that 3M adhesive on it.
Awesome.
I have used the paper ones, the cheap ones before, and they don't do all that great. And when you're doing your hot shakes or breaking shakes or any of that, and you get a grain stuck to the filter, it almost always contaminates kind of stuff. But those ones from Micropose, they're something else, man. I put those on. I've got around 72 jars, and those have been run at least a dozen times through the PC each since I've put those on there, and they look, and I washed them by hand, like I scrubbed them with a
I do the same thing.
They
with
look
a scrub
like
brush.
The day I put them on.
Yeah, with a scrub brush. Yep, same thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right?
I think he was the first podcast that I did on the YouTube platform. I did a couple just in the Discord. And anyway, I think he quoted something like that he had customers saying they could get 6 cycles before they had to be replaced. I've done a lot more than that. I'm easily way past that, and I have no... I mean, I think it's going to have to physically tear or become damaged before... I'm just going to keep running them because it just keeps working. So, and we're going to get into this in a minute, which is the, when to spend money and when do you not need to spend money. In my personal experience, I love a lot of his products. They work, they're superior, and you might say to yourself, oh, but they're more expensive. Well, but are they more expensive if they last? Like the cheap Chinese knockoff filter discs, they literally last 1 or 2 cycles in the wash. I wash mine in the dishwasher.
Well,
they don't last.
Your time to replace them.
Yeah, all that.
The time and effort to replace them. I mean, I haven't used any of his products other than the little adhesive filter discs for the lids. Mm-hmm. But I mean, come on, man, 50 of them for $5 or 10 cents a piece.
I know.
That's not a lot of just money. Ridiculously cheap. And yeah, it might not be as cheap as those, the cheap Chinese ones, but just not having to replace them is amazing. To save so much time and effort and all of that, I don't see how it couldn't be worth the $5.
I'm with you. I love to save money too. I'm always trying to source my agar cheap. I'm always trying to find the cheapest workable products a lot of times. But here's the other thing. So some people are always like, well, you shouldn't buy plates. You shouldn't buy plates from Tim. You should pour your own. Sure. If you want to, do it. But if you have the money and you don't have the time, then you buy the plates. If you have the time and you enjoy doing it, then pour plates yourself, of course, right?
That's a little tricky one for me. For instance, I think you should know how to do it. Like you should, yes. You should dip your toes in and get your feet wet and know the process. But after you've done that, if it's more feasible time-wise, time is money. Yep. So if you've got, pocket change to throw at subbing out that type of work, whether it's your grain bags or, yeah, man, absolutely.
Make the hobby work for you. I mean, a lot of the commercial growers, look at like Earth Angel mushrooms. The guy that came up with Master's Mix, that guy used to grow mushrooms, and then he got so good at making the blocks. That's basically all he does now is make blocks, right? Like, you got to kind of evolve and figure out what works for you. And I agree. It's like boot camp. You got to learn how to do it all, but eventually you specialize, and it's okay if you don't want to do everything. Guys like Tim will take care of you, and you'll figure out what you like to do. Some people, like, I don't get mad if you like to grow in tubs. I don't like to grow in tubs. I like the fruit that come from tubs, but I definitely prefer to grow in bags.
I'm there with you.
So, but who cares what the fuck some other guy does? Let people do what they want to do, whatever works for them. But don't just let your prejudice get in the way of, trying something out.
Agreed.
That's my whole deal.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there.
We can step off of our soapboxes here. Anyway, shout out to Dan and Tim over there in Lansing, Michigan. I think it's great that we have people within the community who've gone to the level of literally creating products specifically for what we do.
Right.
I think that's cool.
I think that's awesome.
It's good for our community. If everyone is just like an internal vacuum that has to like source things from non-aligned industries and make everything work, right? Like, sure, it's great I can buy, a Mac 10 used off of eBay, but it's really cool when a guy like Eric Myers, develops a flow hood for people and has kits to make them vertical, and this is good for what we do.
Agreed.
It's good
Everybody
to have
wins.
people do this. Yeah.
Well, not only that, but the more competition that's created,
Better everything
the
gets
better,
anyway.
Everything gets. The prices get better, the quality gets better, the competition drives all of that up. So everybody wins. Plus, the people who are doing it are, making money in the industry, doing what they're doing.
Right.
So everybody wins.
Right. But I just love anytime we can support our own community.
Agreed.
That's good for the community.
Agreed.
It means our lobby gets stronger. Our private interest of this community gets stronger.
I'm kind of a broke boy, so
I know we're going to talk about that. I know.
Sometimes I'm kind of forced to buy from other places than the community, just because there's certain situations where the pricing is drastically different, right?
Yeah.
But if it's close, if it's even close, and I can, support one of my fellow cultivators, I'm doing that, 100%.
Well, so let's get into that, because you let me find the right slide here. I know you can't see them. I'm gonna pull up. All right, so let's talk about this. You can clarify for me whether this is I don't know if you invented this or if you at least champion this pretty hardcore. I know you have a tech for it. We're talking about the Broke Boy Fan Tech.
Okay, so I did not originate this idea. Now, what you're looking at in the picture, that is me. I fafoed the hell out of that. I bought, doubles of the litany of filters that I could play with,
right?
To really dial it in and make it as effective of a tool as I possibly could. Originally, I thought it was either
it's on Shroomery, right? I think.
No, it was Fun Guy Fruits. I think he had a YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, I like that guy.
Right?
Yeah, I gotta have him on. I like him.
Not the good Fun Guy, but Fun Guy Fruits.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was using a single filter, and he was doing all right. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be honest at first, because I was very spoiled at that point with my cabinet. So I was like, this is a joke. This can't work. This is
right.
I feel horrible now because I feel like I was being very elitist about it, But those of you who were around when we had our disaster in '01, at the end of '01, and I had to rebuild from scratch. I just couldn't. I'm like I said, I'm broke. I couldn't just go out and buy
another
laminar flow hood. So I felt desperate, and I watched his video again. I hunted it down and watched it again, and I decided I was gonna I was gonna engineer the shit out of this thing. You know, like
Right.
I'm gonna try to make this the best thing I possibly can, and maybe, possibly, it might work. In my head, I still felt like it was garbage. It wasn't gonna work. You know, again, I feel really bad about that now. But he was using one filter, and I believe he had it on the front. But I
Okay.
learned that those types, that type of fan filter, uh, I know this sounds crazy, but using a pre-filter on it actually boosts the flow, like some type of back
Mm-hmm.
pressure to it. That that and I'm not exactly sure why it worked like that, because I'm not an engineer, but
Yeah,
it
man,
does.
I'm not a aerospace engineer to know that, but I know you're mirroring, right, what a real flow hood does. It has a pre-filter and then the actual final filter. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Now, so do you do? Is it MERV 7 and MERV 13?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And
So I mean, you could do MERV 8 if you didn't have a 7 too, right? But you're basically want to be roughly in that.
yeah, you could do an
Space.
8, you could do a 6. It doesn't matter
Okay.
really on the pre-filter. It's just that combination um, was what gave the best airflow.
So
Like,
7 and MERV 7 and 13, you found were the best. Okay.
yes, and for those that when you go shopping, if you want to make one of these, a lot of the stores, the big box stores like Home Depot, Lowe's, stuff like that, they might not use the MERV system. They might use
Right.
the FPR system, and I believe the MERV 13 is FPR 9, and the MERV 7 is FPR 5. That's those
FPR 5
equivalents
and
to
9.
both.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So 7 and 13 are 5 and 9. I know you can order MERV. I get. Actually, I buy a. I don't use the one that came with the Mac 10. I buy another one and tape it on, just because I want. I bought mine used. I know I got about 5 years out of it, so I didn't want to clog it up any faster than I possibly could prevent. So.
Sure.
But yeah, but when you're doing that, so here's the thing. So somebody had a comment. I'm not gonna pull it up on the screen, but somebody said not laminar flow. I want to clarify something for everybody. Those Mac 10s, those FFUs, any of the FFUs you're buying, they are not laminar flow either. In order to have laminar flow, you need the aluminum corrugated ducting on front of it. You got to have an 11-inch filter package. If you don't have that, you do not have laminar flow. But guess what? I get no contamination off of my flow hood.
Exactly.
One of my buddies on the chat here just said, my buddy Cube here, let me pull this up. I will pull this one up just so you guys can see it.
My boy Qbert. Shout
Yeah,
out.
Cube said, I was very thankful to have Whitebeard show me this tech. It got me through 5 months of work with no contam issues. He now has a cool flow hood. But look, if it works, who gives a crap?
It works very well.
We gonna sit around and argue about laminar flow, or are we gonna? Here's what I tell everybody to do. I got these people that like build their own flow hoods, or they try Broke Boy Tech, or they buy a used Mac 10 or something like that, and they want to see if it's good. So they'll buy an anemometer. They'll measure the air velocity, and they'll discover that it varies from the edges to the middle, and it's not at the range where they thought it was supposed to be. So they start worrying about it all. And I just say, turn the sucker on, let it run for a while, put some plates in front of it, and if the plate's within, 6 to 8 inches and right in front of the hood, if you don't get contamination after 5 or 10 minutes, I guess it really doesn't matter what the air velocity is. It looks like it works.
Yeah, as long
That's
as
what matters.
as long as you're having positive pressure blow across your workspace,
Yep.
that's really what matters. Filtered,
Right.
positive pressure, clean air. As
Yeah,
long as you're
and
getting
not
that.
a lot of turbulence. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. That's all you
Yeah,
gotta
but
do.
even with the turbulence, though, if you work close to the filter,
Correct. Yeah.
you're still good. And that is a big thing about the Broke Boy fan filter unit, is that you do have to work closer
Yeah.
than you would like with a flow cabinet.
I'm the same thing. Mine, even so, there's 3 settings, and at the highest setting, I am in the middle of my FFU. I'm not quite at the air velocity I'm supposed to be at. And then when I ran my plate tests, that was the least clean area. So I work on the sides. It's why my stands are on the side, and I
Yep.
I just hug that filter. I mean, I feel like I would do that anyway. I would need like a row of 5 of those things in a a conditioned room or something before I really stepped far away from the grill. I like working by the grill. It makes me feel good.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so that works. So I think it's really important for a lot of people to realize at the end of the day, it's the efficacy that you're looking for. Does it work? Is it
100%.
blowing clean air in a slow, controlled manner over your work? Are you working with sterile technique? If you're doing that, like Cube said, he worked for 5 months. He had no contamination issues. So we can argue.
Yeah.
Argue all day, but it don't matter.
I used mine for at least 6 months, and I had almost no contamination. I was so shocked. I mean, I was literally like, holy crap. And that's one of the major reasons I felt so bad about feeling like I was being an elitist about, the flow hood and all that, because it is so functional.
Yeah.
It took me about 6 months to save up the money to buy a new hood. So, the one thing I would like to say, though, if anybody's planning on putting these together, something that's really important that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, those filters have a directional flow.
Correct. Yes.
So there's an arrow on the side of those filters, and you just want to make sure that you've got the filter on so that the arrow's pointing the direction you want the air to flow.
Here, so Ed just said, most contamination comes from poor technique, not the not the FFU or the hood. Good call. I would be inclined to agree.
I would as well.
I did know somebody who truly made their own box. They ordered the fancy. It was a true laminar filter package. They bought the wrong size blower, and so they were just blowing too much CFM through that filter. And once they replaced that with a smaller unit, everything worked perfectly. So you can when you're building it yourself, you do need to know a little bit about. You got to buy a filter that has a chart about the CFMs and know exactly how to dial that all in. Which again, Eric Myers has a great video, a couple videos about that. But the technique is a lot. That's a lot of it.
Doesn't Boomer Schumer have a video about building one of those?
She built one, and I can't remember if it was based on Eric's or not, but it's a similar build for sure. Yeah, right. Eric has his first video. He's got 2. The first one really goes into the specifics of figuring out how to achieve laminar flow and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but so with technique, working in healthcare, I had to learn sterile tech for a whole different set of reasons. So I'm not, I do a lot of invasive procedures. I stick things in patients all the time, and I gotta make sure I'm not contaminating the things I'm sticking in.
I have to agree with you and Ed 100% on that. There is a sterile technique of how to work, and I don't know the correct term. I'm sure Ed does, with his experience. But I've never worked in a lab for a living, so I don't know what it's called. I just know what I call it, and I call it working behind the plates. And basically what that means is that, while you have your FFU in front of you, it's blowing up against you, and your plates are between you and the fan filter unit or laminar flow cabinet, whatever it is.
Right. Yeah.
I always try to keep my hands behind the plates, between me and the plates, so that they're not over the top of the plates.
Correct.
Or even worse, in front of the plates, putting your hands in your tools between the plates and your fan.
Yep. Like the long. I remember the first time I used to work with a short scalpel, and the first Yoshi Amano video I saw where he had these really long scalpel handles, and I immediately saw like, oh, I see the advantage of that. My hands can physically be farther away from the plate. It kind of gives me a little cheating room, and because it really contamination falls, right? Absolutely. When right now I'm just rubbing my hands, and little pieces of skin that have Staphylococcus aureus on it, that have little skin bacteria, those little pieces of skin are falling down, and if
Well,
I
if you're
hover
like-
over a plate, it's going to contain, right? Still maybe once in 1,000 plates, I'll have a little bit of yeast, and it usually grows right towards the very edge because it's, maybe I touch the edge of the dish or something.
Right.
Don't get mad, Ed, but I still pour barehanded. I wash my hands first and ISO intermittently, and yeah.
Yeah, or if you got hairy arms like me, you might have a hair fall off into
Same
it or
thing,
something
yeah.
like that. Or beard hair,
Yeah, beard
even though
hair.
even though I twist it up and tie it up and stuff it into the mask, it'll still
Yeah.
find its way sometimes. So nothing's ever 100%, but
Yeah, so I don't work in the OR, but I did a good OR rotation, and you will not believe how long those surgeons are scrubbing their fucking hands.
I know.
It is absurd, dude. It is literally a 20-minute scrubbing, and they are going from past the elbow all the way down. I mean, and they're using chlorhexidine scrubbing, these little scrub pads.
Right.
Chlorhexidine just kills everything, and they're scrubbing because they want all the loose skin sloughed off from that scrubbing process. And then they glove up, they double glove, they're covered. Just the extent they're going so that one tiny piece of skin fragment doesn't fall inside the cavity that they're working in. It just shows you sterile technique matters. We've heard
Absolutely.
consistently from Yoshi, I think Yoshi, and then Mushman 9000. They really have a sterilization ritual before they walk into their clean room tent that they work in, and that stuff helps.
No, I don't have a tent like that, but I definitely
Me
have
neither.
routine. Absolutely, I have routine. It's been very important to me for a very long time, that routine. But
Mhm.
then we've got people like Mind Melt. He'll tell me, I don't even shower. I just scratched my balls and worked it barehanded.
Yep.
And I'm like, what? And he comes out with these gorgeous canopies, and I'm just
Right,
like,
yeah.
what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah, I spit in that tub, and I was like, no way. And he's like, yeah, watch, and he spit in
Yeah.
the tub right in front of on cam
Yeah.
for everybody, and then we watch that every once in a while. We'll check in with him. Oh yeah, you want to check out the spit tub?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what
Yeah.
he's doing, man, but he's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. I wish I could do that and get away with that, but it don't work like that in my environment.
So some of that I hear. So I have a friend in Humboldt County, and he's just always dealing with contamination. He lives in an older house. I think sometimes people's houses individually just carry a different level of contamination. So some people, we maybe misperceive that it's, us coming in contact with stuff in the tub, and it might just be some people have more airborne contaminants than other people.
Yep.
We just don't know. There's just shit we just don't know.
Well,
Right?
and
We just
also,
don't know.
all of our bodies are different. All of
Yeah.
us carry different yeasts and
Yep.
microorganisms and all this stuff, and what's on your body, what makes you, what are you, 10% you and 90% microorganisms and things
Yeah.
like that?
Oh yeah. Well, we have more bacteria in our body than cells in our body. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah, it's crazy.
whatever makes up you is going to be different than what makes up me, and maybe that's another reason also,
Yeah.
possibly, why Mind Melt can get away with that kind of stuff, because
Sure.
whatever makes him is
Mm-hmm.
maybe obviously different than what makes up me, or you,
Or he
or
sold the
anybody else.
soul to the devil in his 20s. Who knows? We just
Right.
don't know.
I could
We
see him
don't
at the
know how it
crossroads. I want to grow mushrooms.
Yeah. All right, so we have here. I'm going to pull this off for a second so we get to the right one. So now, with all that said, after we've said the Broke Boy fan unit works fantastic, totally agree. I for a while used a little desktop air purifier with a garment bag taped to it,
I've
and
seen that.
even though I posted it on Facebook and immediately had a bunch of old school guys tell me I didn't know what I was doing and that it doesn't work and that there's no way it works and just arguing all day with me. I was like, I've been using it for 2 months. I have not had a single plate contaminated on me. So you keep telling me how it doesn't work, but it fucking works.
Now, I
So,
could be wrong, but I got a buddy of mine. We call him Professor Moose,
oh yeah.
and he put himself through college years ago growing mushrooms.
Hmm.
And if I remember correctly, he told me he did the same thing.
Sure, yeah.
Like a
I
big
mean, quite a
bag.
few people do it, yeah. I found it on YouTube, a Veritas Mycology video, and I said, I mean, I don't see why this wouldn't work. I think the main response was, oh no, it's just too much turbulence in there. And all I did, I cut the 2 slits for my hands, and then reinforced it with some packing tape, and then and it inflated a little too heavy. So I cut a slit on the very end, and I basically got it dialed in to where it just stayed inflated.
Right. But as long as you got that air
Yeah.
movement, that
Yeah.
constant air movement,
Yep.
it should be fine.
Yep. Exactly. And yeah, ISO. And I
Yeah.
ISO'd it in there, and it was great. It worked great. I poured well over 1,000 plates before I got the Mac 10, and I had less contamination than I do working on that now. So.
Yeah. Speaking of ISO, I get teased a lot. I'm an ISO freak.
Oh,
Like
same.
I ISO everything.
I do. I hear you.
I
And
got
then when
those
I go to
little-
work, I gotta wash my hands when I go into a room, when I leave, right before a procedure, after. I mean, the amount of ISO that I come into contact with, I hope it's not carcinogenic, or I'm dead.
Yeah, I would say on a lab day, I go through almost half a bottle. The little 16-ounce
yeah.
bottles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got one of those aerosol sprayers. You know, the little, like the hairdressers use.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I use one of those, and I spray my hands down every time I walk away from where I'm working. I come back, I spray them down again. You know, I reach out of my workspace to grab a tool. I spray the tool down, spray my hands down.
Yep.
I'm an ISO freak. I get teased about it a lot too, but hey, it's okay. You know,
Man, Dollar Tree. I can walk in there with a $10 bill, and I can walk out with a basket full of ISO. So
Yep,
it's all
exactly.
good. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just reading something here. So, yeah, let me pull up. So with that said, so there are cheaper ways to skin a cat, and then obviously there's still a still air box, which if you work slow and smart and read up, there's a few little tech tricks you can do to make it work better. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with a still air box either. But
Well, yeah, I mean, it still has its use even after you get a flow hood or
Sure.
a broke boy fan filter or whatever. You know, you don't want to try to clean up plates in front of one of those things and blow, you know,
right.
contaminant all over you and the room and all that. You know,
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. If I'm trying to transfer off of a contaminated plate that has like mold or something that's sporulated in it, I actually just turn the hood off, and I just clamshell the shit out of it. I work off of the mentality of time, right?
Sure.
If I can cut that with the clamshell barely open, if I can sneak that out and I can pull it out quickly and then lift the other lid up, I mean, that's been exposed to air for 3 seconds. I've decreased my odds of getting, and that, I mean, I've never not had that work. So those are all those little nuanced things, right, that you figure out that the longer you're exposed, longer your agar's exposed, the more likely, no matter what's going on, I can put a plate in front of an open plate in front of that flow hood. If I put it there for 3 hours, something is going to fall on it eventually.
yeah.
Just eventually it will happen. Anyway, but so I brought that up to say, with that said, you still like a flow hood.
Yes, I'm spoiled. Absolutely.
It is the first way you should spoil yourself in mycology, I think.
Agreed.
For sure. All right, so what else we got here? Let me see. We're getting close to moving into the ethics portion of our talk here. So
Well,
I'm going to go through.
if we're still on the subject of the broke boy techniques, I'd like to throw a shout out to some guys in my server that we did a bunch of FAFOing on broke boy bag tech.
Oh, we need to talk about that for sure. Yep. So why don't you start telling that story?
Okay.
And then I will queue up the picture if I can find it here, which I think
Sure.
I can.
So I've been running bags for a very long time. I don't know exactly how long. If I had to hazard a guess, I'd say for somewhere around 15 years.
Really, you've
Um,
been running bags. So you were running bags before it was cool to run bags.
yeah,
Yeah.
actually, I was running the the Chinese mushroom bags, the ones that don't have filter patches,
Sure.
though they don't have ships. They were just bags,
Mm-hmm.
and I was getting them really cheap in bulk. And believe it or not, I didn't know anything about coco coir and vermiculite and all that.
Right.
I was growing large BRF logs in the bottom of
Sure.
those
Okay.
bags.
Mm-hmm.
Say, basically the same idea, right? Like
Yeah.
I'd
Mm-hmm.
I'd have me like 4 pounds, 3 pounds, 3 pound, four, yeah, about 3 pounds in the bottom of the bag. It was basically the exact same size as a unicorn bag, but a couple inches shorter. I think it
Right.
was like instead of a 10 by 5 by 24, I think it was like an 8 by 5 by 22. I think
Right. Pretty close.
pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would just make BRF the little pint jars,
Mm-hmm.
BRF pints that
Right.
people would make the little cakes and put them in shotgun fruiting chambers. Well, I would use those, and I'd inoculate those and use those as my grain to go into even more BRF
Oh,
in the bag,
nice. Right.
right? So you just
I
dump it
dig
and
it.
spawn it in, and believe it or not, man, I got some really good grows. I mean, nothing like what we're doing in today's age with the designer genetics and all that.
Sure.
This was back long. I didn't even know about designer genetics till when I met you. When I first met you, you're the one that
Yeah.
introduced me to Limitless and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been so far out of the mycosphere because the only mycosphere that I knew that existed was shroomery, and I got
Right.
pretty tired of that years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't keep up with anything, so I didn't know about DC Mac Genetics or any of these guys. We
Which
got a
I mean, man, those are some legendary. I mean, DC
yeah,
Mac OG. That
yeah,
has spawned just some tremendous. That's a once in a lifetime cultigen right there. It's
a
those
hundred
are
percent
anything with the name DC Mac in it is going to be an
the gold
experience.
standard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful fruit for sure. Yeah, that's cool. I didn't realize that. Well, so I mean, and even though you've been growing for a million years longer than me, I mean, a lot has happened in the last couple years, right?
yeah. Well, even
It's
since
in, yeah,
I got
even in a year.
introduced to the whole scene.
Yeah.
Since I met you in Munchausen's and you brought me over to
Mm-hmm.
Limitless
Yeah.
and we were dealing with Yoshi and building our own servers and all that stuff. Just in that amount of time,
I know.
which is what, like a year
A
and a half
year, dude.
tops. Yeah.
I've been
A
doing this
lot has
14
happened.
months, dude.
There you
14
go.
months ago, I didn't know anything about growing mushrooms. Nothing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I felt genuinely honored to have met you when you were first starting out because I got to see your personal
Uh,
growth and it's been nothing short of fucking awesome, dude. I'm
Thanks,
so
man.
proud of you.
Thanks. Well, I was lucky because I meet people like you, and you guys, I'm all the newbies that we're just spoiled because it all comes easy. But I can tell everybody right now, if I got into this back in the day, I would have worked through whatever turmoil and obstacles I would have had to work through. Because man, for me, it never gets old seeing those fruit. I don't care what it is, gourmet, medicinal, actives. I love growing mushrooms. It's like my spiritual practice, man.
Well,
It
speaking of
really is.
how, we've gotten so much lately, um, it's really reinvigorated me as a cultivator.
Yeah.
Like I felt, with these new genetics and having fancy filter patched bags and the coco coir and all these new stuff to me,
Mm-hmm.
I felt like a noob all over again, and not in a
That's
bad way.
cool.
It
Mm-hmm.
felt good. Like, man, I got all this stuff that I can soak up now, all these new
Yeah.
things I can try, And I've been trying to try them all. You know, I'm a real
Yeah.
FAFO artist. You know.
I'm with you. We're the same. Anything new, I don't care how dialed. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've completely dialed everything in and grown. I mean, people in my servers and friends like you have seen the fruit I've grown. I know how to grow fruit, but then I go, well, let's just try something that could ruin all that and see what happens, because that's what I like to do.
You
It's
know,
like trying something else.
you're when you're speaking about that, that really brings up a topic to me where some people aren't interested in trying new things. They're trying to
Right.
basically stick to the old, you know, pasty white stacks and
Sure.
the stuff from back in the day, which is tried and true, and those work, and I
Yeah,
am not
that's cool
knocking those
too.
in the
Yeah.
least. But you know, especially older guys like me who are in the scene, they're not super interested in trying maybe what a cultivator who's been running a year for
Right.
is doing. Like for instance, the drippy corns, right?
Yeah,
Oh
man.
my God, I fucking love drippy corns.
Yeah, dude.
You know, and I was
Shout out to Stunning21 on
hell
Instagram
yeah,
or Stunning
stunning
on my Discord.
21.
Yeah, dude, that guy just he fafoed that and figured it out, and I tried it and I said, "Wow." The first time I ran that, I shook that jar in like 2 days maybe. My
Uh huh.
30% shake was 2 days in,
Uh
and
huh.
then like 2.5 3 days later, my 100% shake, and then a day and a half later it was fully recovered. And I was like, did I just get through this whole process in like 7.5 days?
Yep. Now see,
It was
I was an oats
absurd.
guy. I was an oats guy for
Sure.
a while, you know, and yeah, you turned me onto that and told me, man, you got to check this shit out, and I
Dude,
did, and I was
yeah,
like,
and it's hard to go
damn,
back to oats after that, man. It's
I've still got a half 50-pound bag
I'm
in
the
the
same
closet.
problem. Yeah, I still
I,
work them in a little bit here and there, but like we have the iceberg Tylepa Yai grow along going on with Miss Mush SoCal, and
hell yeah.
I did some corn, but I was like, we're gonna do some 50-50 millet oats. Slow as shit, dude. So slow. My corn's done. My corn is done.
Right.
It's done. My oat millet is not done yet. So I think you gotta. I love the corn. It's clean. I'm almost positive. I don't care if you get triple washed whole oats. They're just a dirtier grain. So you're always dealing with that. It's a little trickier to dial in the moisture content. The corn is a slam dunk. I never have, like you said,
Now,
it's
now
awesome.
I changed it up a little bit though, because I use raw sugar in my
Mm-hmm.
agar.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to, you know, you instead of using corn syrup in the drippy corns, I used raw sugar, a quarter cup of raw
Oh
sugar
sure, yeah.
for the wash. And it works great. The jump off is
It's
instantaneous
nuts.
almost.
You want to know what I think it is? Now, obviously, less inoculation points. But I think the mic likes the little gaps. I think it likes the space. It likes having to, like, go from one corn to the next.
Right.
I think there's something about that space. It does something to the vigor. I mean, I'm just making this shit up, but when I watch it, it looks happier.
Like making it reach almost.
Yeah, like making it
Yeah.
reach is good. You know, it's like when on a plate, when it gets to the end, it fucking knows it's almost at the end of the plate, and
Yeah.
it rises out, right? Like, and
Sure.
especially when somewhere finally touches the end of the plate, then it all just starts going like this. I don't know, maybe having that little moment when it's jumping off that colonized grain into just the space in that jar where it goes, well, where's my next grain coming from? I don't know
Right.
if that does it or what, but the combination of just adding a little sugar that infuses into that corn and the corn itself, and it's clean, it works so good.
Now I tried adapting drippy corn tech to oats, and it
Oh,
didn't
did you?
work at
Nah,
all.
I bet not.
It turned to oatmeal.
Oh, yeah, too mushy.
Yeah, no, I mean
Yeah.
literally oatmeal.
Now,
Like a
did you do traditional grain prep on it, or did you do no soak, no simmer prep?
I followed the drippy corn tech to the T.
Oh, Oh, I see. So you did the 2 cooks.
Yes.
Okay.
But it didn't even make it past the first one.
Wow. Yeah. Now,
Like,
have you ever had this with the first cook on the popcorn? I had a batch that everything split. I think so normally in my first cook, as soon as it's done, since it's not the sterile cook, I pull it outside and I pull the weight off just to speed things up and let it depressurize rapidly and then go in and dump it in a strainer. I think I didn't do that for like an extra 5 or 10 minutes so it cooked longer. So anyway, when I dumped it, every single grain was split wide open.
Oh, damn.
And I was like, well, screw it, I'm going to run this anyway. And guess what? Mike didn't care. Mike didn't care. Didn't care one bit.
Right.
And then later, like a month later, somebody I was talking to was like, oh, I actually cook it that way on purpose because they seem to like it. I still like having the hole there, but yeah, I'm with you. That's, you never know, right? You never know. Today, some guy just started growing mushrooms and he might be 3 months away from coming up with the slickest tech of all time.
Exactly.
You just don't know.
And you can't be that old man that refuses to, move with the times. Sometimes there's bigger, better out there, and you're missing out.
Yeah. Agree. Yeah, and then with corn, the other thing I like about it, because I do not go through grain like crazy, so for me, when I'm buying dinner at the grocery store, it's like, oh, I think I need to pick up 5 or 10 pounds of popcorn. Great, it's just like no issue. It's so easy to do. And guys like Sporehead, he's on my Discord as well. He's also on Instagram. He's been running popcorn for a long time. Like Dave Wombat's been running popcorn for a long time, and he gets his Jiffy Pop in, I think, 20 or 40 pound bags. I think he goes to like one of those Gordon food service places or something like that.
Right.
So,
like
if you need more, there are, you got to hunt around a little bit, but you can make it a little more cost effective.
Well, I know I've been seeing some of those. I think they actually have one called mushroom popcorn. Have you seen that?
Mushroom popcorn. Oh, yeah. Sporehead actually made a joke about that. You don't want to run that. You can, but it's not ideal. No, it's the kind, when you get the when the popcorn actually pops and you get that little like dome, that brain looking dome. That's mushroom popcorn. So like movie theaters will actually do a blend of traditional popcorn and the mushroom popcorn, so that there's like the variety, I guess. I don't know.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'd never tried it. And I know it wasn't specifically for growing mushrooms, but I just found it humorous because they sell it in like 50-pound bags.
Right.
And I was like, wow, it even says mushroom on it. Like,
yeah.
Is that a sign?
Yeah. It's not a sign. It's a trick. Don't fall for it. Hey, I just want to real quick pull this up. Juno, said, oh wait, no, I'm sorry. I got to pull the first one up here. He said, I learned so much from this. Oh, wait, no, I didn't, because you want to explain WTF you're talking about. Okay, so let me just say this. I had one other guy earlier say this. We are definitely talking not at a newbie level most of the time, but don't forget, I've only been doing this barely over a year, so just hang in there. Just watch these. You'll absorb some things. You'll miss some things. Join my Discord. Everybody in the Discord will explain anything you need to know. Like, I'm telling you, if you're new to this, you're in the most perfect time to get into growing mushrooms at your house. Cause
no kidding.
It's all the information's on my Discord. You can ask a question, you will get an answer in seconds from hundreds of people, perhaps.
It's true.
You're okay. Just hang out. If this is too much, stop watching. It's all good. Go to the Discord, ask your questions. You will get caught up in no time. Trust me. Sorry, quick lull. I saw that and I wanted to address that.
Sure.
All right, so yes, Drippy Corn is great. Again, shout out Stunning21. And everybody likes to argue about grain. My first mentor is a woman up in the Oakland. think she's Oakland or Sacramento. I can't remember. I've never met her in person. She's just a Facebook mentor. But she said, you know, whatever grain you choose to run, just run it till you know it. Get to know that grain well.
Well, I agree 100%, and I also suggest that when you're first starting, to do the same with the text. I think that's
100%.
I think that's one of the biggest frustrations for new growers, for beginning cultivators, is that I think they complicate it too much. They say, "Oh, it's so complicated," but I think the reality is a lot of them. I think you're the one that's complicating it, because you're trying to take this one part that sounds good to you from this one tech, and it's like overexposure. Right. You've got these 5 different texts that you read, and certain parts of these certain texts make sense in your brain to you,
right,
and you try to mash them together,
right,
and it doesn't work very well. But if you just pick one, and run it from beginning to end, learn that, and then maybe try another one. Try another tech, and
yes. If I had to do over again, I ran too many. I mean, dude, I think I'm well over 80 different cultigens I've ran in a little over a year. I mean, I've grown a lot of different varieties, cultigens, strains, whatever you want to call them. If I had to do over again, I would have stuck with 1 to 4, maybe 1 to 3, and I would have ran them to death until I was like we were married. Because I feel like if you just run something, a couple bags of something or a couple tubs of something, and then you move on to the next thing, like Pokemon, got to collect them all, you don't learn as much.
I'd agree with that.
And I know. So for example, let me pull up one of these slides. So Whitebeard's in his fancy home studio, so he doesn't have a monitor in front of him, so he doesn't know what I'm pulling up here. But I'm going to pull up some of his fruit so you can see what he does. Let me pull off my overlay here. All right. So this is some DC Mac 391. These are some big, good-looking, consistent fruit. And he runs it a lot. And so he knows 391. He knows it very well. He knows how to make it work. He knows that if he's run into issues, what it needs, right? And would you not agree that every variety potentially has its own little temperament to it?
I'd say they all do.
Yes, yeah.
And it's not like greatly differing from others. It's just, well, like you said, you get to know it. It's like your wife. You know what little things make it happy,
Yes. Exactly.
And sometimes it is that. It's just the little things, just like a real relationship, It's not always these big giant gestures and these giant changes between this variety and that variety and all that, but it's just a tiny little thing. Maybe this one likes a little more air, or maybe it likes to be choked a little bit, Maybe it likes a little bit wetter sub, or a little tiny bit drier sub. But it changes how it pins, kind of thing, and
even timing, right? And if you only, that's why I tell new people, if you're only growing something once and moving on, then you didn't learn much about it, right? If you grow something 10 or 20 times, its pace. You even have like a sense of, okay, this is how long this runs for, and I know what I should be expecting. And when you know that, then you know if something's not right, and you can address it quicker. Oh, I should have pin set by now, or oh, I should see this hyphae knotting up right now, and I'm not seeing that. Oh, is it dry? Oh, it's a little dry. Oh, look, I put it in a different spot. I shouldn't have put it there. It dried out quicker. Those are things that you'll learn more rapidly by focusing on 1 or 2 varieties initially and really growing them for a while.
Dead on.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's show a little bit more of your fruit, and then we're going to talk about some ethics. Let me pull the overlay off again. All right, so now I'm going to pull up some of your Shakti. This is Blue Brains. This also highlights Whitebeard takes these really classy black background photos. It really highlights the fruit, its texture, its color.
It's
looks
just
really
a black
good.
towel.
Just a black towel, guys. It's that easy.
Yeah.
It's called Black Towel Tech then?
Yep. Beard's Black Towel Tech.
Yeah. And here's the cap of that same fruit. Oh, hold on, let me pull
Yeah,
this up.
actually, that one there was one of them that you sent me when
Oh yeah.
everything went to shit on my end at the end of
Oh yeah.
2021, and you sent me a little care package to get me
Yeah.
started, and I didn't even know that that was from Yoshi. You told me that
Yeah.
after I had grown it out, and you had I had posted it on Instagram, and you tagged Yoshi in it, and you said, "Look what our boy Whitebeard
Yeah.
did over here with this culture we gave
Yeah.
him," and I was like, "Wait, what? That came from Yosh? I didn't
Yeah.
even know that."
Yeah, man. Here's the story about that. So I sent you some blue brains, and I sent one of my friends, Earth Girl, and it never worked out for me. I have yet to get any. I've grown some Shakti, but not the Shakti blue brains. All my bags contaminated. But here's why it pays to be nice to people and have Myco friends, because then they might have better luck than you. And when the time comes, if you want to grow it again, you just give them a phone call and you say, hey, I don't have that Shakti anymore. Can you send me some? And they do. That's the
Absolutely.
good thing about it.
Yeah,
All right, so
that,
I'm gonna go
that is
through a
one.
few more. Sorry, go.
I was gonna say that is one thing that I really do have to say that I have massive appreciation for, not just the community in general, but it seems much more specific to the Discord community.
I agree.
They are much more willing to share. Like
Yeah,
they know you wanting something and you don't got any money, they might be like, "Bro, just pay the shipping. I'll send it to you."
yeah. Don't even worry
Or
about it.
or sometimes they won't even accept, a cash app for the shipping. They're just
Right.
like, "Shut up, dude, take it."
Yeah. Exactly.
And I never I never got that really from the Instagram community. Definitely never got that from the shroomery community. It seems very specific to the Discord mushroom community, and I
I
think that's
think each
pretty awesome.
platform brings out a different, because of its structure, like it innate and how it works. I think it brings out different qualities in people. So, for example, Facebook, it does not bring out the best qualities in people, let me tell you. It brings out the fucking worst qualities in people. I can't be on Facebook for 5 or 10 minutes before I'm like, what am I doing on here? These people just want to fight all day long and argue. Fight and argue, fight and argue. It's all they want to do. It's super
I feel the
freaking
same way
annoying.
about Reddit as well.
Reddit can be that way. Shroomery can be that way. This is why if I remember correctly, I had to twist your arm for a second to get you on Discord, right? Is that right?
No, no, actually, I've
Oh
been
no,
on
you were
Discord
on.
for years.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
thinking of somebody else. Okay, my bad.
I've been on Discord for years. I just didn't know that there was a mushroom
Oh,
community
for
on
mushies.
Discord.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, that's right.
I
For
use it
gaming.
mainly for video gaming and
Yeah.
playing
Okay.
Dungeons and Dragons online and stuff like that with some of my friends.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty familiar with Discord, but I was ignorant to that scene even
That it was
existing
used
on
for
Discord.
right. Now, I can't remember who it was then. There was somebody where, man, I just had to practically beg them to try it, and then a month later they're like a pro. They know how to use it better than me, and and they were like, yeah, I get it now. Just people are nicer. Um, it fosters good qualities in people. You and a couple other people like Slightly Feral, my buddy Deadpool, and my server
Good guys.
for a long time was tiny, under 50 people, and it was really just for like my absolute closest Myco buddies to hang out. And there's something really special about that. Somebody earlier was asking about, what's your Discord? And it ain't you're gonna have to organically become really good friends with Whitebeard, and you guys are gonna really have to click and connect, and then maybe one day, if you're lucky, you'll get an invite to his Discord. In the meantime, you can join mine. Mine is a free-for-all full of a million great people. If you suck, we're going to boot you immediately. So if you suck, don't even bother joining our Discord. My mods like to boot people. With that said, we don't do it that often. Seems to mostly attract good people. But yeah,
I think you have a great community in your server.
yeah, it's great. It's really great. We pulled a lot of great people from Limitless, and seem to just trust that like 200-300 people we started with to pick good people to bring in. And then I got a little nervous with the podcast, advertising it on the podcast. But so far, it seems like if you're the kind of person that likes to listen to people talk for 2 to 3 hours about growing mushrooms, then you're the right person for the Discord. So it's worked out so far.
Yeah, if that's you, then welcome home.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
Okay, so we went over a little bit, just getting to know you and hanging out and talking and shooting the shit. Let's talk a little bit about ethics before we get into Ed stuff. What do you see are like the biggest ethical issues that our community deals with on a regular basis?
No, that's a pretty interesting question. I'd say there's a few. Not just one, or I don't know how I would be able to limit it to just one.
No, you like what are the things that you reoccurring themes or issues where you're like, man, I wish people would just do this, or why are so many people doing that?
Okay.
Like, what are your things you hear a lot that bug you?
I'm very concerned with how some people in servers or on Instagram or Reddit or wherever it is, where they're asking for help and they ask somebody specifically, say like somebody in your server knows that I do bags and they came and asked me specifically something about bags, and I give them an answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's two ways this goes that I don't particularly care for. The first way is the person that asked me doesn't follow the advice, and they come back the very next day asking somebody else, and it's like you literally just wasted my time.
I agree.
Because if you ask me for help, I'm going to give it to you, and it's not going to be a quick 10-second. Well, try this. It's going to be like, okay, well, talk me through your process. Let's see where you could possibly be going wrong, and then I'll listen to them, 15, 20 minutes, tell me about their thing, and then I'm listening and saying, okay, well, here's 2 things that stood out to me, and I think if you possibly try this in those 2 scenarios, I think it's going to really help you out a lot. And then I know they haven't,
Wait, say that again. You cut out for like 1 second.
And then the other thing is, let's say this similar scenario, somebody asks for help, and I give them an answer, and then someone else comes in and is like, no, you don't want to do it that way. Do it this way.
Right.
And I don't have a problem with someone else offering an alternative fix to that issue or an alternative process or something like that. But when their attitude is shit on the first person that answered and listen to me, it's just kind of a dick move, and I find it interesting how in particularly this community with mushrooms, that sometimes there's still some pretty big egos. You thought that you'd think that would have been handled by now, and I have this theory that maybe these people aren't growing for themselves at all.
Right.
Like they're doing this as a business, and they're not using it to work on themselves. Because if they did, I think their ego would be a little more under control.
That's a good theory.
Yeah.
Another theory.
Another issue I would say ethics-wise is stealing genetics.
Sure. Now, what do you? So you tell me what you mean by that.
Okay. Let's say. Okay, I've only ever made one cross in my entire life. It was a ghetto cross about 5 years ago.
Okay.
It was Penis Envy and Golden Teacher. And it took me at least 1.5 years to get it to F4 stabilization. It took a long time just to get it to cross to begin with. I went through a ton of failure to get it to cross at all. And once I got it, I had to work it a lot to get it there. Now, this didn't happen to me, but I'm just giving you a scenario.
Right.
So I go through that. I either sell it, trade it, give it away, whatever I do with it. It gets out into the ether, and somebody gets a hold of it, and they sell it as whatever.
I see. Yes, I agree.
You know,
The old switcheroo.
exactly. Now,
Right.
now, I don't have a problem with them marketing it, uh, differently. Say they grew it out and they swabbed it and they're selling the swabs, or they swabbed it, fruited it, fresh from spore, did their own little work to it, whatever like that. Um, you know, let I don't want to use anybody we know.
Right.
Like
We
I don't
get
want
it.
to throw
No,
that name
yeah.
out there to give
I
it a
mean,
negative aspect. But let's say my old lady, Sweet Pea, right?
mhm.
Let's say she did that. I'm totally fine with it being PE teacher Sweet Pea's cut.
Right.
We see Mana
Right.
cut, we see, all these other different cuts.
Mhm.
I have a bunch of Whitebeard cuts that I trade
Right.
out and all that. Um,
Right. But by doing that, you honor where. So, for example, let's say you work DC 391 for a while, and you feel you get to a point where you have isolated something a little different about it.
right.
And so or maybe you just feel like you've got it way more stable.
Sure.
You've somehow improved it or changed it, and then you say, I have DC Mac 391
The beard
Whitebeard cut.
Yeah.
So you've honored where it comes from, and you're letting people know that it's your cut. It's it's a little different. If you buy 391 from DC, it's going to be a little different than if you buy it from Whitebeard. Or maybe...
Or let's say Dirty South, right?
Exactly.
Dirty South got it, and he's got his own cut of it. His is going to be different from mine.
Yep.
And that, but for you to take that, something that I created, which is the only thing I've ever created,
Right.
and completely change the name and call it,
Right, like hiding the... It's really about, are you trying to honor where it came from or hide where it came from?
exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly.
However
And
you want to accomplish that, but that should be... Yeah.
Yeah.
So even I found this on Instagram. So if I just grow a tub of ODPE, one of the first questions people are going to say is, well, where did you get it? Well, then why didn't I just... And I do this, but in the post then I just say genetics from Fungi Guru, genetics from Dirty South Myco, genetics from DC Mac, right?
Exactly.
Just tell people where it came from. That's good for those people, because then the people who have actually created something original and good, you are now giving them credit, and then they can keep doing it, right?
Well, not only that, but you're erasing the hard work and the pride somebody put into
Right.
providing that to the community.
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't even have to go to that point of saying, buy Stun in 21, buy Dirty South Myco.
Right.
Sometimes those crosses, the name itself, they donned it with that name, like Stormtrooper, right?
Right.
Like, so, if you don't know where it came from, you can talk to people in the community and find out pretty quickly where that came from. But at least it's paying homage to the person
Right.
who's put a lot of work into
respect.
it. Agreed. There you go. Respect.
It's respect.
That's what I was looking for. And also, some of these guys that resell genetics, they'll take Stormtrooper and call it Ewok butt, or
dude!
Chewbacca
If Dave Wombat's listening, you better believe next week we're gonna have some Ewok butt. Watch out! I think he had a butthole one recently. Maybe that's the name for it.
But yeah, you get the point.
Yeah. Yes.
And basically they're selling you genetics you already have. You don't know it.
That in and of itself is problematic. Yes.
Right.
100%.
To me, I feel at that point you've deceived me and you're stealing from me.
Yeah.
You're stealing my money. I already have that. Have that genetics, and you're changing the name of it.
Couldn't agree more.
to try to freshen it up, give it a new whatever, and
Right.
well, I just spent $30 on that, and I
Yeah,
already
man.
have it at home.
It's like when you go to the grocery store and you buy your Tide, and you're like, oh, this is a new Tide. It's a fancy new bottle. No, it's just Tide. Just a new, nothing new at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's just the packaging. It's the hype.
Well, I mean that's a couple of ways that I see there being ethics
Yeah.
issues. What would be some that you would consider?
So I love that you brought up the one about if you take someone's time, if you're a newbie and you take someone's time and ask for their advice, you're asking for their wisdom, you're asking for their secrets, and then they give them to you and you go ahead and do none of them. You have definitely wasted somebody's time, and then don't be surprised if the next time you ask for more information, they're less inclined to want to respond to you. It could very well be why some of the really well-known people, as a general rule, don't respond to people. Maybe they just realized that that was not a smart use of their time. And
I think you're onto something there.
Yeah. So, but I love that because in talking about this ethics, we talk a lot about what vendors should and shouldn't be doing. But yeah, there's a responsibility for newbies as well, and I agree that would be one that if you want someone's time and they give you advice, bucking it and ignoring it completely, and then coming back showing me, and dude, this has happened, where they show me a picture. Why is my tub like this? Well, did you do even 8 of the 10 things I told you to do? No, I didn't even do 1 of the 10 things. Well, okay, I don't know how to help you then.
Yeah.
Because if you did what I told you, you'd have some great looking mushrooms right now, probably.
Or if you did what I told you, at least we could rule those things out.
Yes, at
and
least
focus
we could.
on the other aspects, and then try to fix it there instead of over here where we're trying to, let's patch this up first, and then we can.
Yes.
If that doesn't work, we can look at other things.
100%. That well, for me, so on the vendor side, I really think this naming thing is a big deal. I think it would be great if all we did, and the Medicis talked about this too, make it less about whether you should sell something, when you can sell something, and just spend a little more time honoring where it came from, like you're talking about. I think we'd be ahead of the game.
Okay, hold on. Now you brought something in my brain.
Triggered.
Yeah.
Hit me.
Okay, so I'm not gonna put anybody in the spotlight for this.
Yes, we are not in this whole ethics thing. We are not going to dox people. 100%. We're not.
Not
doing
at all. But I do have a problem with you being a genetics worker and vendor and putting out an unfinished product, and then having your clientele finish the work for you, and then send you back the finished product so that you can then turn around and sell it again. Now, mind you, I don't have a problem with that in general. My problem is that the price should reflect that.
Sure.
If it's unfinished genetics, it's not stabilized, and you normally charge $30 for some swabs, those unfinished genetics should be maybe $10 or $15. But you charging the full price for an unfinished product, I have an issue with that.
Agreed. Yeah. So I mean, I like what Dave Wombat does. His unstable stuff, he's super transparent about it, and he tends to just throw it in as extras. He doesn't charge anything for it.
I like that.
Last time I bought, 5 or 6 swab sets from him, he threw in like 2 extras and was like, here's
fun.
what they are. Have fun with it.
Yeah.
But they're definitely not done.
Well,
Okay. So I want to say this real quick. Sweet Pea has been plugging for. So we got 176 people watching this right now. Click the like button, guys. Just click the like button. She's working too hard over there. Yeah, subscribe. I mean, if you watch this on a semi-regular basis and you're not subscribed and you don't get notifications and all that, come on, what are you doing, guys?
Good job,
Help me
baby.
out here. Help me out. Yeah, Sweet Pea is a good one. She's definitely a good one. Right? Yes. I think we have some work to do. I think a lot of it is just because no one knows what
He's
to
smiling
do,
ear
right?
to ear over here, brother.
Nice.
I just want you to know that. Like, it's
That's
permagrin.
awesome. That's great. Yeah, it's not like when you learn how to drive a car, right? Like you read the rule book, you know what the rules are for driving. When you live in society, you know what the rules are, right? We don't really have any rules. We have everybody's opinion of how it should be going. So that's why I'm really hoping that just talking about this for the next year every week will get us to some sort of something that's roughly like a consensus. Obviously, even when we reach consensus on this, doesn't mean there's not going to be a significant percentage of people in this community who don't listen to a single word anybody has to say, and they do whatever they want anyway. That's fine. We can't do anything about you guys.
You can say it. It's okay. We
yeah.
all know who that group is.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. We know who that group is.
Yeah.
And that group won't be doing this for very much longer anyway. So, because everybody's going to grow their own.
Yeah.
It's all good. And at the same time, you know, we're going to just be here spreading the spores. We're going to be spreading the information because everybody should have a chance right now to experience what this stuff is all about. You know, it's pretty remarkable. Anyway, man, I think we're because I'm still trying my best to stay roughly. You know, I'm trying not to hit that 3.5 hour mark anymore. I had a couple that went pretty long, and I pay for it in the morning. I just want to say this. I think we've got to have you back on. I feel like we're not done with our conversation, but it was great.
Brother, I love being here, especially on one of my good friends' podcasts. I would be more than happy to make time to accommodate that. And you just let me know.
Cool, man. Well, you know, as I get better, so man, I'm telling you right now, the segments are hard to produce. It's hard to put together.
I would imagine.
I'm still working on it.
You know, just learning to make YouTube videos has been so. There's such a learning curve for me.
Yes. So guys, Whitebeard started doing. He's got his. This is great. This is what I secretly had hoped. I hoped more people would do podcasts, more people would do channels. So in the description, you guys can find how to get a hold of Whitebeard and sweet talk him and maybe find one day get an invite into his very elite private Discord server. Which I got to tell you right now, he's a good guy. They do a lot of voice chat. They do a lot of talking. They're just like in our Discord. They share everything. They hide no secrets. They truly want to help one another out. And so whether you're in his Discord or you're in mine, you can get a hold of him either way. And go check out his YouTube too. He's making some cool tech videos. And are you doing some interviews? Right? You interviewed Dark Matter.
I did. I interviewed Dark Matter, but I didn't really know what I was doing. You know, so I didn't have a way to do video or anything like that. So it was
it is a learning curve.
Fake it till you make it kind of thing, you know.
But you're doing it, man. That's what a lot of people talk.
Well, I got a good camera now and a backdrop and I even have a light ring. I didn't set it up yet, but I got a light ring. I'm trying to I figured out how to use my soundboard.
Perfect.
Like through my computer that because I'm a musician, so I've got mics and all that stuff already.
Oh, dude, you're ready.
The thing is just finding the time. No.
The time and the knowledge and the tricks and the little glitches and it's a process. It's a process for sure.
Currently, my YouTube videos look like a third grader made them, but
it's all good, man. If the information is in there, that's all that matters.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, man. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I think we gotta have you back on. That was a good time.
Hell yeah.
All right, man. Okay, guys. So we're gonna say bye to Whitebeard. See you later, my friend.
Do you mind if I take 10 seconds to throw a few shout-outs?
Oh, shout out whoever you want, please.
Okay, my beautiful baby Sweet Pea over here that's pushing your likes and subscribes over here.
She's awesome.
I couldn't do it without her. Like some of the mainstays in my server. We've already covered some in your server, such as P-Funk and some of the other guys that we've been around for a long time.
Yep.
Deadpool and Slightly Feral and all those guys. But there's some that are in my server that I'm very proud of. A lot of them.
Shout them out.
Yeah, Mind Melt or Mindfully Melting, depending upon which one you find on IG. 3XB, Wood Hippie, Special T, Slink. My boy Slink took my cut of Gandalf the Green and grew out a 421 gram fruit.
I know.
That was amazing. Let me see who else. Fatal. Who else, baby? I don't want to forget nobody. I already said Wood Hippie. Toyful. Toyful's my boy. Yeah.
We're going to have Toyful on here, I don't know exactly when, but he's going to be on here too.
Oh, Penelius Jones.
Nice, yes.
Man, I feel like dirt for not remembering everybody's name off the top of my head, but those are normally, some of the mains that are in voice all the time and getting in video and all of that stuff, So I really wanted to make an effort to throw that out there. And for anybody who I forgot, guys, I still fucking love you.
Next time, next time.
Well,
next time, whoever they'll tell you tomorrow, everybody you forgot, and then next time you'll hit all those guys up. It's all good.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
Tap, don't forget Tap. Yeah, my boy Tap.
All right, man.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, and I call him Infected, but y'all might know him as Hail Satan 666. My boy from
Illinois. Hail Satan 666. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a bunch of them, man.
Good people.
I could probably go on and on if I kept going, but that's good for now. I just wanted to throw some shout-outs. I appreciate you.
Cool, man. All right, take care. Thanks for coming. It was super fun. I had a great time.
Hell yeah.
All right, take care, man.
Bye.
All right, guys. Let me pull off my... I wish I had a production team to pull to do all my little tricks here, but I don't. All right, so Whitebeard. He's a good guy, man. I'm telling you right now, he's a good one. He will take the time. I think he prefaced if you're not looking to actually follow his advice, don't waste his time. But if you want to try some Texas, this guy can definitely grow some mushrooms, and he can coach you to success for sure. All right. With that said, we are going to transition right now from talking about straight up cultivation to, hold on, I got to do one more thing here. There we go. To getting down deep and dirty on some science. We're going to use big words, guys. Get ready. Multiple syllabic linguistic diction will occur shortly. I don't even know what any of those words mean, guys. I just trusted my instincts and it worked out. Okay, you guys know him. He's been on here a couple times. He is definitely the grout that fills in when people don't show up, and he is now hopefully becoming, this is normal, right? You definitely want to do the densest, most complicated stuff at the very end, but that's what we're doing. Here we go. What's up, Ed?
Hello.
How you doing, man?
Okay, I'll give everybody a good night marinade. Yeah, now I'm messing up. Marinade? Serenade?
Serenade. You're going to serenade us?
Yeah, I'll serenade y'all.
Nice.
But I don't know. I'll
with
leave
a traditional Thailand folk song?
Yeah, I can't do that
Nice.
with my fingers. I'll try to break them.
can't
No,
either.
man, I love that, man. I loved hearing that. Was all good, man.
He's great.
I'll try not to throw in too many multi-syllabic things.
Syllabic words. Okay, cool.
Is that like a country in Eastern Europe? Like
I don't know.
I don't.
In the past life, I was a poet. I used to know things. Anyway. All right, so guys, this is what we're doing. Deep science. All right. Gosh darn it, I lost my overlay again. Here we go.
Yeah, I just went and
All
grabbed the articles here too.
Cool, man. I got it. So anyway, guys, in the description, you will get some homework tonight. In the description,
Not much.
I have linked from the Journal of Natural Products an article entitled "Fungal Identification Using Molecular Tools." A primer for the natural products research community. This was an article, I think Ed found it after watching somebody did a YouTube presentation on it or something like that, and then he found the article itself. It's a cool article because it was presented as not a warning, but like a, hey, we foresee that there's going to be a lot of people scrambling to find novel compounds and alkaloids and secondary molecules or whatever all the terms are, basically novel compounds in mushrooms that we have just not studied for various reasons that now we're going to start studying because mushrooms are cool and fun, maybe slightly overhyped by the media, not by me. I don't overhype mushrooms, guys. If anything, my hype is only yet to begin.
I know, exactly.
But the warning is fair. The warning says, okay, if we're going to do this research and we're going to start selling products, we should probably know what we're talking about. And I think the first time I had this idea presented to me was, I cannot recall her name. She is like a paleo mycologist on Facebook. I've talked to her about being on. Of course, her name escapes me now. But anyway, she had a post one time that was basically like, so don't just put a bunch of mushroom powder together and then sell it to people and tell them to eat it because you don't actually know what you just put in
That's
there.
what I do. I don't sell it though. I just give it. I just give it to my friends.
Right. But I mean, like, when she said that, it brought up a fair point where it's like, oh, like, there are compounds in here, and we are just mixing them up, and we don't know what the hell we're doing. Like, maybe we should put some thought into this. So this article is similar in that it's saying, there's going to be a big movement to do more DNA barcoding now that we've figured out ITS is where the species identification region of the fungal barcode is at, and we got great guys like Alan Rockefeller running workshops and doing amazing content all the time, and definitely encouraging people to become field mycologists and get involved in all that stuff. This article is talking about there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And Ed was like, this is kind of a cool article. What do you think? Should we talk about this on the podcast? And I said, you can talk about whatever you want. Yes, we should do it. Since then, we've debated back and forth about it, but we're going for it. So tonight, now that we got some basic terminology down, hopefully we got everyone just salivating over more DNA barcoding content. That's what we're going to get into tonight. So hold on, I got to pull this darn overlay off again. So, okay, this is just so everybody can see it. It's also in the description below from the Journal of Natural Products, Fungal Identification Using Molecular Tools, a primer for natural products research community, and then the DOI's down there, and you can find the link in the description. So here we go. First slide. So Ed has talked to me a lot about this. He was really the first person to ever bring this to my attention and kind of help me realize why this matters. So you want to start off, and the article echoes these thoughts, which is why it matters to follow traditional standard practice within mycology when it comes to utilizing and identifying and then submitting all this genomic information to BLAST and places like that.
Yeah, for better or worse, like GenBank has become very, very accessible to the general public.
Right.
I hate to get in and I hate to burst anybody's bubble, but after years and years of doing fungal forays with quote unquote amateurs, the general public doesn't know what most mushrooms are. So when they submit a sequence to GenBank and they call it Lactarius velimus, well, they don't know Lactarius velimus. I don't know, it's a common milk mushroom. It's orange. They think, oh yeah, it's obviously Lactarius velimus. And they put up their sequence. They take a picture, put it on iNaturalist, and the next thing you know, that becomes the standard sequence for Lactarius velimus. The problem is they don't know that there's also Lactarius torminosus. There's also Lactarius deliciosus. They don't know that
I
Lactarius
didn't know
deliciosus
this. Yes.
and volimus are European names. So if you're in California, Lactarius volimus isn't the mushroom you found. So it goes, I hate to say it, it goes back to nomenclature and taxonomy. So where does that name come from? Who originally used it? And did that person who used it know what they were talking about?
Right.
It's like if you went to a dog breed show or a horse show, and I was like, this is a Pekingese, and this is a Shih Tzu, and this is I don't know what the breed for those are, right? So if you're gonna call something a Lactarius volimus, well, again, that's a European name, and what we have in America, it's a very common edible mushroom. That thing on GenBank may and probably was not submitted by someone who knew the genus Lactarius. And there are hundreds of species, and they're mostly European names, and it just goes on from there.
So what you're saying is, if no one has ever submitted a given mushroom species, and it is first submitted, then it becomes... and it's wrong, down the road it becomes noise, but at worst, for a while, it can lead you down the wrong road.
Yes, exactly. So people, I think, have become way too dependent on their phone apps, and now that we have DNA sequencing that's readily available, which again is a double-edged sword. Yeah, it's really, really cool, but it's not the be-all, end-all.
Right.
Because if I give you a DNA sample of let's say a Chihuahua, and I tell you and I label on that DNA that it's actually a Chihuahua, and I say it's a Chihuahua, but it's actually a Great Dane. Now you do this sequence and you put it on GenBank and you label it Chihuahua, and you're probably not even going to list where it came from. Right? But it's actually a Great Dane. But now everybody thinks that sequence on GenBank is like the be-all, end-all, the authority. In nomenclature with names, we actually have what's called the authority. That is usually something like Linnaeus, and it'll have something like Linnaeus 1769, and it might even have a reference to the actual publication. We don't have that on GenBank. Like on GenBank, if you're lucky, there'll be a reference to a publication, and then you can find the original authors, and you can sort of decide, like, is that a reputable source? Should I believe Bob, Bob from Pennsylvania? Is he the authority on Lactarius now? Like, because he submitted a DNA sequence? Like, probably not. Probably Alexander Smith from the University of Michigan Herbarium? Yeah, probably he wrote a 400-page book on the Lactarius of Michigan. He probably knows what he's talking about. Bob from Pennsylvania? Like Bob, fixes motorcycles or whatever. He's not like a
now.
Taxonomist.
So with that said, like if I'm hiking and I see a white oyster, or I see chicken of the woods, or I see pheasant back, I'm still pretty sure I'm right. So then let's say that I run it and I sequence it and I blast it and it comes back, and I got a really long list confirming that I'm right. Am I really a bad person for wanting to submit that?
No, but do you really need to?
But do I really need to? You're right. But is it so? What if all the things that come back are not in my area, though?
I'm not trying to. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to discourage people or put a hot poo-poo on the whole DNA sequencing.
Right.
But if you are going to submit the same
thing.
Yeah, I don't know if if you go to Walmart and you see Walmart brand cheese, mozzarella cheese, like you kind of know what it is already.
Right. Yeah, so this is like a case of when you go to the grocery store and you're like, I need grape jelly, and then you're like, oh my god, there's 17 grape jellies here. Like, I have too many options.
Well, if you're going to submit it and make sure you put maybe a GPS coordinates. Right. Or you put a time of the year or a substrate, or maybe it's got a slightly different color to it. Okay. Those things are valuable, but if you're just whacking up something that says Polyporus squamosus, it's like, it's not really, because everybody anybody who's hunted mushrooms more than a month knows Polyporus squamosus or Cereoporus squamosus. Okay, that brings up a second point. Is if you're gonna submit something, I'm sorry, but you should probably try to do it with a name that is semi-modern. Like modern in the mushroom world is like within the last 20 years.
Okay.
So if you go back and you look at our Stropharia cubensis, people get confused. They're like, what the hell is Stropharia?
Right.
Well, Stropharia is the original name of Psilocybe.
The first.
And Stropharia before that was Agaricus. Now, Agaricus white button mushrooms, nobody's going to look at, well, maybe like an ape or one of those icebergs. They kind of look like like button mushrooms.
Right.
But like when Fries circumscribed the genus Agaricus, he just threw in everything that had gills.
Right.
So, and then Polyporus came along, and then now Polyporus is Cereoporus, et cetera, et cetera. But if like, I don't know, like maybe if you're gonna submit a bunch of sequences, maybe add something to the pot.
Right. That's what I was getting at with like, if you're concurrently submitting, if you're first doing your iNaturalist observation, this is something that I saw in an Alan Rockefeller video. He was like, so the first thing I do is submit it to Mushroom Observer iNaturalist. I have pictures there. I have GPS coordinates. I have as much information as I can. And then I link that when I guess he links the ID number to his submissions. And I thought, oh, that's cool, because then if I want to actually see the thing he's talking about, I can go look at it. But I see your point of you should have a reason for submitting it, like that you're bringing something to the table, that you're adding something. Otherwise, you're contributing to just noise, kind of.
Yeah, I hate to say it. Honestly, when you go through the thing, if you pull down bad sequences, I just did this with my students yesterday. A lot of she was working with wild pigs, and so we were pulling down pig sequences, and there was 1,000 domesticated pigs, and some of them were really noisy. So literally in the sequences, they had gaps and errors in the data, and when she put them into her analysis, it actually added to the error. So if you're talking about something simple like standard deviation, like if you've got a nice clean average, like say you just do something and it's a 5, 6, and a 7, and the average is a 6. Well, do you want to throw in the one that's a 9 or a 1? No, because it messes up the standard deviation. So the same thing with DNA sequences. If you start putting sequences that have even some small errors in the sequence, it's gonna be a problem later with the alignment, and it's gonna be a problem with it's gonna create statistical error.
Right. Now, but I can take, if I think I know what I have, I can pull a sequence of that, and I can use like Mega 11, and I can compare it and see how clean it is, right?
Yes, but then you are back to the subjective human problem of what parts are the right parts. So if you have two sequences and one of them has, and they both say Lactarius volimus, one of them has a T in position 384, and one of them has a T and an A and a G. You're back to, like, you have to decide which is the right one. And those are, you don't have the chromatograms, which are the little graph things, the little colored graph. Like, you don't have those generally on GenBank. You've just got an A, T, C, or G. So now you're back, you're introducing more error because you now arbitrarily are assigning a nucleotide to something that you have no prior information about.
Right.
And that's when the noise gets out of control, because then even maybe people will resubmit that sequence as like a corrected sequence. This gets really messy really, really quick.
So it's almost like how statisticians can like make data say whatever they want it to say.
Exactly. Right. Like those polls on the street. If you go to, downtown, like South Central LA, of course they're not going to like the police, right? Sure. If you ask them, but if you go to like, I don't know, Dearborn Heights or whatever outside of Detroit, where it's a bunch of doctors and like pharmacists, they're going to be like, oh, the police are wonderful. We love them. So it's confirmational bias as well as sampling bias, right?
Yeah.
And then you're just. I understand people want to publish their work. I totally
Sure.
understand that. I mean, I caution people though. Like the other thing is, if you find something that's not on GenBank, it's not maybe a new species.
Right.
A lot of people, and the impetus for a lot of this, and I feel the way a lot of the citizen scientist people push it, you're going to go outside in your park where you walk your dog and you're going to find a new species.
Right.
And it's going to eat plastic, and it's going to save the world, and we're going to get rid of foam, and we're going to clean up oil slicks, and it's going to bioremediate heavy metals, and we're going to plant it on Mars. And it's like, you're not going to find that. I'm sorry. Not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're not going to find the cure to cancer in your park where your dog goes to take a shit.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
It's pretty sophisticated science that's going to have to occur. I personally think most people just like and I do think people are seduced with the novelty of, like, if I blast it and it's not there, then maybe I did find something new. This would be great.
Not. It's not.
And sure, it's probably not. Especially around here. Like, if you can, like, drive your car to a parking lot and go on a 2-mile hike, odds are you probably found something that mycologists already know about. Unless you're doing this weird super speciose stuff where, like, oh, maybe you found some weird trichoderma variant or something like, you know, because I've been reading shit lately and it's like, oh, people are really getting into this. Like, you know, listen to one of those, your buddy Ron, I listened to some other of those interviews, and somebody, I guess, just, like, had their students go find a slime mold, like, behind their lab. And and it was something novel, and so I think people are very enticed with that idea. For me, I like the idea of us learning how to do that and understanding the mycology piece, like real mycology, not cultivating.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because you have to have that basis for, if you're going to find something new, you have to learn how to do it. And if that takes you sequencing a pheasant back and going and putting it on GenBank and be like, oh yeah, that's a pheasant back. That's great. That's awesome. Because now you can go out, and if you do find something new, you'll be more knowledgeable about like how to really, like, you know, validate that you found something new.
And it's like, so I'm gonna use a music analogy because was really not so much anymore, but I was a musician. So if you're 18-year-old and you have aspirations to be a rock star, right? You start a cover band and you learn how to play famous songs, and there's a value in that, right? Because you get to play pretend. I get to play a famous song that was a hit that everybody loves, that has some special genius magic in it, and the better I play it, the more I kind of get a sense of what's in there and what it takes. So same for, like you're saying, if I can truly and properly, you know, extract that DNA and get a really nice clean sequence, and I do everything right, then that's like my first step of understanding the process. And then, like you're saying before, we mentioned identifying the macroscopic features, you know, identifying the genus, like really playing at-home mycologist, but really going through that same process, like the dichotomous key and really, you know, sketching morphology of cystidia and all, right, like trying to do those things like a real mycologist does, so that you can not be so you can say the word I practice mycology.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with people calling themselves mycologists, but, you know, people like to call them IG models, and Twitter models too. So it's like, you know, whatever you want to do, it's up to you. If that makes you happy, that's fine.
Yeah. So the naming. So what's not happening on GenBank.
The ironic thing is, I never call myself a mycologist. Like, I refer to myself as just a farmer, and people are like, "Don't you study mycology?" I'm like, "No, I study mushrooms." Like, mycologists do like weird shit in the lab with like test tubes and stuff. I used to do that. It's boring. Oh no, sorry, it's not boring.
No, you constantly remind me that I'm atypical. Like, I think chemistry's cool, and you remind me that most people don't. And you're right. I remember chemistry class, and most people didn't. They didn't like it.
Yeah, I can go on for hours about chemistry, but I usually stop after like 20 seconds.
Yeah. So okay,
Nobody's
so
interested.
what's not happening on GenBank? These naming issues. So, and then errors. So we've covered naming issues, errors. You sort of hinted at poor alignment. So the chromatograms, are there like private places that maintain the chromatograms of these? Why are they absent from GenBank?
The main reason I think is just the data storage. Because the
Okay.
chromatograms are fairly large files, whereas the sequence is just a text file.
Text. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think the whole of GenBank, I don't even know how many trillions and trillions of base it is now, but the chromatogram is actually sort of like I don't remember, but they're bigger. They're way bigger.
Right,
Like a text
okay.
file is like a text you'd send on your phone. Like I could send
Oh
you this
yeah,
whole,
because
the
it would be a
genome.
graphic file, right?
Yeah. I could send
Yeah.
you the genome of cubensis on like my text editor, on my phone.
Right.
But sending you the chromatogram, it's like and
It's
it's
a
got a
bigger
special
file.
format. It usually comes from the company. It's kind of like a proprietary format thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
It comes from the sequencer, whatever they used, and it's got some weird, suffix to it.
Gotcha. So the chromatograms will elucidate discrepancies.
Yeah. You're to be honest, like most people wouldn't really know. It's the problem with chromatograms. You get double peaks sometimes, and if you didn't know you were dealing with a dikaryon, like if you sequence a dikaryon, you'll sometimes get double peaks because it's a hetero. It's two nuclei.
Right.
What do they call it? Hetero. Oh, it's these words. It's two different nuclei. So if there's one base pair that's different, it'll give you a double peak. So then you're back
Okay.
to the original problem. You have to pick one or the other. I don't even want to get into the analysis. The statistical analysis is if you download that Mega program, you guys, if you want to really, really play around this, get that Mega program and just play with it. That thing, I played with it with about 6 students yesterday. Wow, it's like the stuff that literally took me like months and years to do, like we did in
It's in
like
a
3
second.
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's free and it's, oh my God, I was blown away. Like just literally blown away. It's pull down menus where it used to be like text driven, like prompts, like telnet prompts that you were running on a server on North Campus,
Right. Yeah.
and it was just a freaking mess. And this thing is like crazy. It's like a video game almost. You're like, ooh, let's do that. Let's do that.
Oh yeah. You like the button where it just cleans up all your. I mean. It's
Yeah,
just
the
like
alignment.
so
Yeah,
simple.
it's, oh my gosh. And it might, you got to still look at it manually, but
Yeah.
it kicks out trees. And like we literally, like this girl made all the pork and related pork things, put it in an out group and made a tree in like literally like 20 minutes. Like downloading from doing the blast, downloading the sequence and putting them in a text file, doing the alignment, and then like making a tree. She did this in like 20 minutes. She had practiced a couple times.
Sure.
But it's incredible. I was like, oh my gosh, this is free?
Yeah.
Like,
So for everybody watching, so there is. Let me go back here in the slides. So this is when we say blast. This is this repository of just genomic sequences. And you can, as you see here on the lower left, there's the nucleotide blast. That would be for DNA, or the protein blast. What is it? Is that like mitochondrial DNA or what?
all proteins.
Just any protein
So
sequence.
that'll search by amino acid sequence.
Okay.
So when you got, maybe just a little bit of refresher. In a DNA sequence, you have 3 what are called base pairs that are codon.
Right.
That codon, when it gets translated into a protein, those codons, that's kind of a whole other discussion, but they turn into a protein.
Oh, right.
So I actually saw a paper yesterday that, let's not get into that. Protein, just do nucleotide blast. What we're doing for DNA sequence, do nucleotide blast.
But now what's great here, just when Ed first showed me this, is so this site, and then, sorry, I went too far, in this program, you can go on the blast site and you can pull off sequences. So you don't have to actually learn how to barcode DNA to learn how to use the software first, and there's a learning curve to this. So you could start,
exactly.
you could pump in these sequences and then start aligning them and analyzing them and kind of getting a feel for how the program works. And if you enjoyed, and you can create phylogenetic trees off of the software. There are a million YouTube videos. Some of them are, super smart Indian professors that Indian professors love to make YouTube videos for their students. They make a lot of them. But you can learn a lot. It's like being in their class for free. And you can learn how to do this stuff. And then what you end up getting, like Ed was saying, one of his students could make something that looks like this.
Yeah.
And kind of show you how things line up.
And you can do it for anything. Type in, if you're interested in pine trees, or another student was doing butterflies. And you just, it's all there, butterflies, frogs, and just find one of these accession numbers. And like you said, in the Mega program, you can actually search and it'll pull the sequences and the labels and everything right into the program. It's incredible.
That's awesome.
Or you can do it the old school way and make a separate text file, and there's 100 ways to do it now. It's freaking awesome. And you can make a tree, literally. For those computer people out there who have a vague interest in biology, this is the future. This is where people, if there's younger people listening, if you're looking for a job and you want to study magic mushrooms, this is what you need to know how to do. It's great to about FAE and CVG and all those things. If you're gonna get a job and you do want to do a proper research kind of methodology, this is the kind of stuff you just have to do now. There's no two ways about it. If you're an ecologist pulling soil samples out of a frickin' weed plant, this is what you do. This is it's everything now. Everything in biology. It doesn't matter if you grow mushrooms or weed, or you're picking out a piece of coral from the beach. This is what you have to do now. It's just requisite for the education and this kind of stuff.
Because it's just like with AI and programming and all that, the amount, for AI, it's getting pretty sophisticated, and of course it's great because it builds upon itself. But there's so much that has to be done, and it's the same with the genome. There's so much data in the genome, so there's so much work has to be done. And to highlight that, let me go back to the first slide here. So in the article that we referenced earlier, they talk about how right now in GenBank, it's probably more now, but at the time of publication, it was 172,000 full-length fungal ITS sequences. So, and they were saying about half of them actually had Latin binomial names. So that covers 2,500 genera and over 15,000 species. But considering the estimation on species of fungi on the planet is maybe in the millions, it's a tiny infinitesimal amount of species that have actually been sequenced. I think that probably spurs also that citizen scientist interest in going, oh, well, I could do something that mattered, right? And so I'm glad Ed's here to highlight for us the cautionary tale that sure you could, but there's a lot to it, and don't just willy-nilly throw A's and T's and C's and G's up there and think you're doing anything.
I hate to bring it up, but this goes back to the same problem the cube community has faced for decades. Is that when you have, me right now, I don't know what Stormtrooper is.
Right.
So I've heard you guys talk about Stormtrooper is, and I have never seen really a verified picture. I don't know where it came from. I don't know who named it. I don't know what it looks like when I grow it in my environmental conditions. So to just simply say, I've got Stormtrooper LC, and here I'm selling it for $10. I don't know what, I literally don't know what that is. Now, if I say McKinney or Moby Dick or Zico or somebody else might not know what that is. I know a guy who's got all the recent stuff, all the genetics who's come out in the last last year. He paid thousands of dollars for every swab he could possibly get from all the big guys. And he doesn't know what most of them look like. And when I say pink buffalo to him, he's like, what's pink buffalo?
Right.
He literally does. I'm like Lipayai or Lipayai, however people say it. I'm like, Lipayai is a little place in Thailand where I live. It's a name of a town.
Right.
And when I ask a Thai guy, like, I'm like, you don't know about Lipayai? He's like, what's Lipayai and Pink Buffalo? I'm like, John Allen? Do you know who John Allen? He's like, who the fuck's John Allen?
Right.
Oh, sorry. Oops, sorry. I shouldn't swear. Oops.
We've let it slip a few times. It's all good.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry about it.
Like I hate to say it. I don't know. I'm old, but like you kids,
Yeah.
you like if you don't know what I don't know like a B plus or a GT is, but you're slanging like Thrasher and Stormtrooper and what Ewok Nugs or Ewok like yeah, like you gotta figure out what the stuff is before like if you don't know what GT is then you're not gonna know what TAT is.
Right.
Like, come on, like, you guys, like, I don't want to get on a soapbox here, but a little bit of history, and like Whitebeard was saying, you got to give props to the people that came before you.
Yep.
You can't just, like, rip this out of the ether.
Yeah, you just bring up a fascinating, I never even thought about this. So there's a couple documents that circulate around with all the different cultigens, but there's no photo for anything.
And some of them are like, they might be or think or from a conversation on the shroomery and like no date, nothing. It's just like, okay.
Yeah, and I remember the first time I got a print, I ordered some prints from Jordan Jacobs, who is a younger chemist. He also runs a HPLC lab, but he goes on these forages and he offers some prints that he finds on location. And so I bought a few. And he was the first person who ever actually, listed it in a scientific method.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, which was cool. I might have to pull that up and talk about it. So maybe we could get into, I'd love it if you, mycologized what we're doing. And, said, hey, this might be some basic things that if you think you did isolate a unique cultigen and you want to present a unique cross, this would be the information that would be worth carrying along with that, for example.
To be honest, it's really tedious. And this is why people don't do it. Like a lot of people I've heard, they say with very much gusto about how they don't write anything down. Right. That is the antithesis of mycology.
Right.
Like if you go out into the field, like I've been to a lot of countries, you go with like a suitcase. I've had suitcases that were literally more full of mycology stuff than my underwear.
Right.
Because you've got tablets and cameras and lenses and tripods and dryers. You take all this kit with you and you go out into the field for maybe 2 hours in the morning and you come back and you maybe grab a real quick snack for lunch and you spend the next 7 to 8 hours writing down things, taking pictures. Yeah. Yes. I mean, I with all the crosses and stuff, I've got Sharpies within hand grasping area, within arm's length, because I'm constantly writing stuff down. And a lot of people don't like to do that.
You're right. A lot of people don't, but there are some who will. They just need to know what to do.
Okay, well, let's address those people. If you find a mushroom, first off, you need to write down a date and a location. You've got a GPS, we used to carry those handheld Garmin ones, and those things will get down to literally a couple feet now.
Yeah.
One of the times we actually went back to a forest where somebody had found the type locality is what it was called, where they originally found that mushroom, and on this log, we were able to find the exact same, hopefully individual that was growing on the same log based on a GPS or rough GPS coordinates from an old topographical map. And we went literally and we looked down and this log was sitting there beside the trail and there was that mushroom. It happened to be the type specimen for a kind of coral fungi that had gotten destroyed during World War II.
Okay.
It was in an herbarium in England and whatever, it got destroyed. And we went back and found it. So that would be the
isotype, right?
Isotype, yeah, I forget sometimes.
I'm doing my homework, dude. I'm catching. I'm here. I'm in it to learn it.
I know.
I want to learn it.
I kind of had PTSD, so I kind of blocked out.
So that is significant, though, that you could go to that log And because there was enough documentation there, you could pretty safely say that that's the same mycelium colonizing that, and you probably got it. Now, man, I'm gonna tell you, that doesn't work for all of them, because some of them like trees in a certain state of decay, and so you kind of get a window for that, right? So you luckily hit your window, because that tree's gonna rot at a certain point. And
well, we had another one we tried to find. It was in France, and we went there, and it was a freaking Carrefour parking lot. It's like, oh, I guess that's gone.
Oh, you didn't jackhammer out the concrete and see what was underneath? I'm sure it was still there.
No, we were standing there, like 4 of us in the middle of a parking lot, like looking at it like we're crazy people, like, where is it? It's down there. Can we drill down in the hole, like get some DNA or something, like.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a meticulous record keeping. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
It's kind of.
Sure.
It's like those people that, like, when they cook and they say, like, I don't measure anything. That's okay if you're making scrambled eggs. Right. But if you're making a souffle and you're trying to do it consistently for 150 people at a banquet, and that's like, you need to measure stuff, right? So I don't know. It's kind of, I said, it kind of bugs me, the people that start conversation with, I'm a moron, or I'm stupid, or I don't write things down. It's you're setting yourself up, or I hate chemistry. Right. Like, you're already putting up the wall, Like, I'm not good at math. I hate chemistry. I don't measure anything. I don't write things down.
Yeah, man.
I'm sorry. That's great if you're some kind of savant and you can not write things down. That's great. But the scientific world doesn't work like that. I hate to say it.
Oh, no.
If you are going to call yourself a mycologist, you have to write stuff down. You can't be anything with a IST at the end, a biologist, a mycologist, or whatever ist, without writing stuff down. Don't call yourself a scientist. I'm sorry. If you pride yourself on not writing stuff down, you are not a citizen scientist.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I think, fortunately, most people that really wear that label probably are doing a decent job of that. They have not been as rigorously trained in the academic practice, so they might not be, but they're trying. I mean, they're trying. I think most of us, I think most people are growing mushrooms to eat, or for medicinal properties, or for therapeutic benefit, or for recreational benefit, and that's as far as it goes, and that's cool, and they keep watching the podcast because they learn how to do that better on the podcast. But there are definitely a smaller segment of people who want to do more. There are a lot of people who both love the actives community but also forage a lot and just don't know what they should be doing. They didn't get beaten up by Ron Carlson, and they just don't know.
Yeah, well, somebody just mentioned they would like a format for notes. They are on the internet. Google search it. Like, literally type in a mushroom field notes. It'll pop up, and there'll be a nice printed form. Most of the herbaria, if you are gonna submit to an herbarium, you've mentioned this before. If you're gonna submit something to an herbarium as a voucher for your GenBank sequence, you have to have a note with it. You can't just be like, look, here's my 7-Eleven bag of mushrooms, and here's my DNA sequence. They're going to throw it in the garbage because it's useless. Like, so somebody's saying you have to have a proper, just do a Google search. And if you go to any herbarium and you look on their page, they will actually have a protocol, like instructions for submission. And in that, guaranteed, it'll have a note section. It'll be like little index cards, like people used to put recipes on, like a Rolodex kind of thing. Nobody knows what the hell a Rolodex is anymore, but a little card, an index card, a flash card. That's what you need to do, and you put that with your mushroom, and you make sure it's properly dried and it doesn't have any bugs in it, and then you can submit it. But they're not. If you just rock up with like a grocery bag with a bunch of mushrooms in it, be like, "Look, I found some mushrooms." They're gonna probably be polite and say, "Oh yeah, we'll do something with those later," and they're gonna go on the table next to like their leftover lunch. And then they're going to go in the garbage after you leave.
So if you ever thought you did find something new and you didn't submit it to an herbarium, how big of a spanking should you get?
You
should do that, right? Like that's...
Well, you've wasted your time.
You've totally wasted your time.
There's no punishment for you, and there's none coming. You've just simply wasted your time.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
why
so this
would
is
you?
all the stuff
So I could literally go on a text like a Microsoft Word and type ACGT ADDTG ADDTD and then upload it to GenBank and say this is my new species of Martian space mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a waste of time.
Right.
Like you've literally wasted your time, and not only that, you're misleading other people.
Right.
And that we know in the past with misinformation about things like, like snake venom and things like that. Like, really, there's still, I still, it makes me want to scream. I still hear people talking about, it's got to be cottonmouth snake venom. It's got to be western diamondback rattler snake venom. It's like, can you guys shut the beep up? Like, just shut up, please. Stop it. Stop with the goddamn snake venom stuff. Stop it. Anybody under the age of 30, you don't need snake venom to do hybrids.
But I thought
I've done dozens.
What about
I've done dozens of them, and you can just do a smash technique. They're cube spores. They like each other. Right. Stop worrying about mating alleles and snake venom and temperatures. Just put the fucking spores together.
Right. You just make the tips touch, right? That's all you do.
Like, talk to him a little bit. Sweet talk him. Play Barry Manilow or what's that guy? White? What's that dude's name? Barry White.
Barry White, yeah.
Yeah, maybe not Barry Manilow. Barry White.
Rest in peace, Barry White. I love you, man.
Let's get it on. Oh.
It's good.
That might be somebody else. I don't know.
Good.
I get those
the irony of Barry White can't be forgotten. But
so, not to be all serious, you guys, but like, there are proper protocols, as they're called, SOPs, standard operating procedures. If you're gonna submit something and you want it to be taken into the scientific community, they have to they have to have information, like where did it come from, a picture. I love iNaturalist, and it kind of like, if you're at the location where you've taken the picture, I think it uploads the location already. Mm-hmm. But if you don't save it, I really hate to say it, you guys, but if you don't preserve it and keep it, nobody is gonna believe you.
Right. Simple
as that. It's like the like shrunken heads where they were like, oh, this is like kind of pygmy human or what. They never existed. They're farces.
Right.
And like nobody's gonna believe you. So you can do all your DNA sequences and whatnot, and then if you take that mushroom and you throw it in the garbage, you might as well just stop right there.
Yeah. But with that said, there is a lot of herbarium specimens that have never been sequenced that theoretically could be, right?
Yes. So if you actually set up and you live in Ann Arbor or anywhere around there, or you live in Ohio or wherever you live.
Youngstown has a nice herbarium. Mm-hmm.
Go to that herbarium and find the dude or the gal or whatever, or the secretary or whoever it is, and be like, look, I'm going to do PCR at home. I want to submit some DNA sequences to GenBank. They will hand you a box and be like, here you go. Awesome. Go sequence these. They have the accession number. They're already in a database. They probably got pictures. Right. They've got all of the stuff, that card. It'll be in the box. So if you really want to help the world, go and get those things that have probably been properly identified. Like Alexander Smith, famous mycologist, wrote a bunch of books. And he's got little boxes, cigarette cases and boxes. And there's things that he labeled, and so they're probably pretty darn correct. And if they don't have DNA sequences, though. So what's even cooler is you don't even have to go out into the woods and get mosquito bites or wet or dirty. You just go to the local herbarium. They'll give you some of these boxes and be like, here's your DNA. Go sequence it. And that's more cool, and that's going to help the community a lot more.
Right.
I hate to say
like
it,
the original, I looked up, I remember one time I looked up in Blast, I think like the original cubensis holotype who, you mentioned it earlier. It was before the name got changed. Who was the guy who just mentioned it? You said before... Sanger,
Alexander... Smith, maybe. Kaufman, maybe. I don't remember.
It was before it changed to psilocybe. It used to be called what?
Stropharia.
Yeah, I think that
The
original...
wine caps, the big
Yeah.
wine caps, that's
Yeah.
the same genus. That's still in Stropharia, but psilocybe got moved out.
But if you look it up, it'll tell you where the original type specimen is. And, like, if you go to University of Michigan, like, some historic type specimens exist there. Like, some of these herbariums have very significant, right?
They've got closets full of them.
Yeah.
They've got closets full of literally hundreds of thousands of preserved specimens
that no one is ever going to touch for years.
Never. They probably never will. They never will, because, I mean, like, people like Smith used to go out weekly with hundreds of people, and these people would come back, and, like, if you've ever been to Telluride or one of these bigger things, even the smaller local ones, you've got a table at the end, and you've got a mycologist there. Yeah, and they put little name cards on them. I used to do it with this guy, Robert Schaefer. Mm-hmm. Like, I became his, like, his little, like, slave, like, oh, put a card there, and I learned so much from that dude. He wasn't really famous in the Basidiomycete community, but he studied, I think, water molds or something. But yeah, these have been, they're called annotated. Like, they've been named by somebody who probably knows what they're doing. I hate to say a lot more than the average person.
Right, yeah.
And so you get a bot, and it's got a tentative species name on it, and it's got all that stuff. And it's a little bit more tricky to sequence DNA from old herbarium specimens, but it's not that different.
Yeah.
Live mycelium, liquid cultures, fresh fruit body, spores, old 200-year-old herbarium material. It's all pretty much the same. You can sequence it. That's when you get back into the problem with dicaryons, because a fruit body is going to be a dicaryon.
Right.
So then you might get double peaks, but that only happens once in a while.
I like it. I don't... I'm a 3-hour drive away from there, and I'm a 1-hour drive away from Youngstown that also apparently has a pretty nice herbarium. So.
Or they'll send it to you in a box, man. Believe me, if you can do, if you reach out to them and be like, hey, I'm willing to provide hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars worth of free labor, free reagents, free time, they will send you a box.
Yeah.
Maybe send them a picture of your gear, your electrophoresis gel, and they will very likely be like, all right, here's your box. Because there'll be things that were from forays. Maybe they haven't been published, maybe, and they haven't, maybe it's another one of the pheasants' backs or whatever.
Right.
But if they can get you going on that, like, that's kind of what got me started. I walked into the University of Michigan herbarium and was like, hey, what's up? And of course I'm like, hey, do you guys got any, like, of those, like, special ones?
Right. And they do.
And they do, but they keep them in the, special place too.
Yeah.
So, and they're also, like, been sitting there for like 60 years. Probably not much value to us. But I was thinking, like, oh, I get some spores. This is like 30 years ago. And I just found at the back of, a magazine you can order spores.
But bro, if you get that old Sanger holotype and there's some spores on it, dude.
Yeah.
The most valuable spore swab of all time.
We're still looking for that Netherlands holotype.
Yes, exactly. We'll get it. So
I saw the other day that it was destroyed or something like that.
So the 95 is gone, or it never was. The one that 97 one's supposed to be in Berlin. Supposed to be at a big herbarium in Berlin.
Well, see, here's the problem, because we will probably never know what it is.
Right.
It's just as simple as that. Because if some guy's got like 2 fruit bodies in Berlin at an herbarium, who's he going to send it to? What, me? You?
Right.
He's not going to send it to us. It's the holotype. The holotypes are, like, when you go to herbariums, there'll be a bunch of random bookshelf cabinet, like Foot Locker things.
Right.
And then there'll be one cabinet that's got like a big-ass padlock on it and probably a chain that says type specimens, or it might not even be labeled. Because they're very, very, they are the for taxonomy and a lot of science. Let's go back to maybe if you want to know what, say, E. coli is, like H1N5. Like, that's a very specific cultivar of H1N5. I can get E. coli from my toilet bowl.
Right.
Now, if I take that E. coli and I do a sequence on it and I upload it to GenBank and I mislabel it as H1N5, now everybody and all my neighbors think that my toilet bowl and their toilet bowl and every other toilet bowl has H1N5 when it doesn't.
Yes.
And it's simply because I mislabeled it. Because I don't
it's
know
like what you're
the hell.
saying is that accuracy matters.
Yeah, sometimes.
I'm kind of
you know.
getting that sense. Yes.
Like horseshoes and hand grenades kind of don't really
But you're really providing the cautionary tale, because as this data and the analysis of this mountainous amount of data gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, it will be very easy for it to just, say whatever they want it to say and get out of control and mean nothing while simultaneously being amazing. And yeah, it's probably a whole new problem we haven't even
it's been a problem, man. Like I hate to go into a different topic, but this is part of the reason I got frustrated, like Whitebeard was saying. The genetics were like, there used to be a GT. That was it.
Right.
There was a GT. Now you don't know what GT is.
You don't.
Like nobody knows what GT is. Nobody really knows what the original B plus or PE. Nobody knows what it was, and it's become like folklore. The original story of PE, and like, it's named by some like prostitute and blah blah blah. Like really?
You know nothing. Yeah. Oh, people are starving for that history. I know. I can't tell you how many people talk about it. So what would be cool is we have talked a little bit about doing infraspecies phylogeny, that you're saying theoretically, potentially, if I get good enough at it and a couple other people get good enough at it, maybe we can work together and we could actually start putting together, because in the DNA is the information of when things come along, and we could theoretically put together a rough framework of this.
Yes. We're back to the one problem. I hate to bring it. We've talked about it.
You don't have to hate to bring it up. We want you to bring up all the stuff.
So we need to get below species level. Yeah. Because remember, they're all cubes, right? And they're all cubes, unless you're talking about pans or whatever, ovoids or whatever. Like that's a different thing. But every single 9 out of 10 cultivars that anybody would name would be cubes. That's it. The ITS sequence is going to be identical. So if you do Thrasher and Melmac and PE, they're all going to be exactly 100% cube sequences. So you don't need to sequence your new hybrid in the ITS region. What we need to do is it's pointless. Yeah. It's going to be another cube. What we need to do is get below. So there's where infra-specific, actually below.
Oh, right? I said it.
Below, okay. I told you to take it out, but you're right. Infra-specific. Mm-hmm. We need to get to that level of identification. Just like humans, we're all Homo sapiens, but we all have fingerprints, and we all have, and they use different DNA techniques. They're not sequence-based. They're not specifically based on like ACGTs. They're more of like markers, we call them, like SSRs and whatnot.
Sure.
That's a several different other podcasts. But I want to go back to this idea that we need, even if we get markers and SSR fingerprints or whatever, we have to have voucher specimens. I'm sorry, you guys. Right. At some point, somebody's has to buck up and be like, all right, I don't care about the popo anymore. I don't care. I'm going to have a big container in the back of my, maybe not your garage, but somebody has to submit a vouchered specimen, and maybe we'll get to a point where we as a community are brave enough to be like, look, this is my new ivory tower.
Right.
Like, here it is. Here's my new cultigen ivory tower. Yes, Bob Schaefer or whatever. Like, it is a magic mushroom. Like, you don't have my home address.
I think we're getting real close.
I hope so, because that's the only thing, and I hate to say it, that's what kind of decreases the validity of a lot of the scientific work that people do. Right. There's people in the cube community doing awesome scientific work, but if you say this is a new cultigen or a cultivar or whatever the hell you call it, and nobody can verify your information, it's pointless. It's like you guys were talking about earlier, and you can name anything you want. It's like me naming my guinea pig Fluffy. Nobody knows what the hell Fluffy is,
Right.
except for me. It's
Right.
I don't like people got to get this. Like you have to give some verification procedure. Like you can't just say, "Look, I made this." Like giving it a new name. Like getting swabs. Like I typed in, I kind of like let the cat out of the bag, but I'm so excited. I got like an albino DC Mac OG popping. And like I'm like, am I don't know if it's out there, but I'm like, I'm obviously gonna swab the hell out of it and clone it.
Right.
But it's like I'm still gonna call it DC Mac OG. It's just gonna be albino, and I'm gonna have to ask somebody where I got it from. You know where I got it from, but like I'm gonna have to figure out what to call it, and I'm gonna make sure I give props to somebody, whoever gave it to somebody else or gave it to you or whatever. Like those people need to get respect, and like these people that completely rename things are it's ridiculous. It's like stealing somebody's kid and being like, oh, your name was Jenny and now you're Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you
but
can't do that.
Sadly, people are doing that right now. They are stealing kids and they are renaming them, and they are giving them to a rich European family as we speak. Yes.
That happens over here all the time.
happening.
They come over, they just take them back on the airplane and be like, oh yeah, this is my kid. So, they're stealing Cambodian kids like every day. But yeah, it's really like, and then that kid's gonna be confused, right? Because if it's a PE lineage and you're trying to grow it like a GT, you know, like a standard brown one, and it's a PE lineage, and you're like, what the fuck is wrong with my kid?
Right.
Like it's gonna get confusing, right?
Real fast. Real fast. Yes. The yeah, the naming's an issue. Now the only person that I've heard say, now this is not quite this detailed, but Dave Wombat mentioned one time, he said, well, why do you think I post so many pictures? He goes, because all my stuff goes out there all the time. And he's like, by documenting so many pictures, and he's like, I keep all my pictures. I have all these pictures. So he's like, if someone ever said this is mine, he's like, I could go, well then, why do I have all these photos on my phone?
Oh, that reminds me. I gotta
Right.
back up my phone.
So yeah,
exactly.
take a lot of pictures, take a lot of notes, write things down. But yeah, you bring up a great point about, so we were talking a little bit about how we might figure out if a cross was real, but it's not even terribly complicated, but you would need the cross fruit and you would need the parent fruit.
Parents, exactly. Yeah. That's the problem. It's just like if you're trying to figure out who the daddy is, you know, like you need the daddy, the mommy, and the kid.
You
like,
gotta swab their mouth.
That's the get some like off the top of a Coke can or whatever, you know. These like 40-year-old like rapists who got convicted for like things they did like, you know, 25 years ago, they get convicted on a swab from a Coke can from a but yeah, these the problem is also, I hate to bring it, also photos aren't real anymore.
Like, yes, you have brought up, that is a good point. Photoshop.
I hate to say it. I mean, my girlfriend plays with her phone last week. She's a 46-year-old woman. She made herself literally look like she was an 18-year-old Korean girl. And I'm like,
that's what I do with my fruits all the time.
Yeah, it's like, you're way fatter, oh, she ain't gonna listen to it. I'm like, honey, you ain't that skinny, your cheekbones aren't that high, and your nose ain't that big, and you're way darker than that.
Yeah.
But like, Asian women love to, if you really want to insult an Asian woman, just tell them how like brown they are.
Oh, I know. I work with a bunch of Filipino nurses.
They fucking hate it.
They would come back from vacation like mad that they got a tan. And I was like, wow.
Yes, exactly.
You have like the opposite
They're
problem.
Terrified. Terrified of like, yeah, we pay for tanning beds. Y'all are like, people here walk around with umbrellas like in the daytime, like when it's sunny, so they don't get brown. That's how you know if you're rich. If you stay inside and you don't go out in the sun, you know you're rich because you like sit in an office all day.
Wow.
And like you don't have to go out and work in the rice field or whatever. Right. It's a weird phenomenon here. But yeah, pictures, I hate to say it too, man. They're like, you know, I understand how also Dave, he puts sometimes very unattractive photos
Yeah.
on Facebook. And he does that with a particular purpose. It's to be like, look at this shitty mushroom that I grew. It's not pretty. This is the way it might look when you grow it at home.
Yep.
But if you refine it, and he's growing in little mini tubs and stuff, it's not going to look pretty. Like when I take photos like like Graybeard with his black towel, or Whitebeard with his, I use gray, that's why I say gray, because gray is a neutral background. So if you have a standard gray or even black or even white background, like people can gauge, if you've got a white background and all of a sudden your mushroom is white and it looks so blue, but the background's also blue, but people can get around that, people know how to.
But now, so Ed, you can have a velvet backdrop and you can create the moody photo as long as you also take the neutral passport photo of your mushrooms.
I mean, don't
that has
have
a
to,
ruler or something like that. Yeah, I mean,
but after seeing what a typical girl can do to a photo on their phone within 3 minutes, like some of the new iPhones, they'll probably have an app to make your mushroom look beautiful, right? With all this AI stuff now, like people can make a standard cube look like anything they want.
I remember
it's kind of scary.
I asked somebody one time because there was a photo that was so suspect to me. And I just messaged the guy privately and said, I'm just curious, did you Photoshop this? Absolutely not. He almost got mad that I asked him. And I'm just like, well, I know what, the phosphorylated psilocybin looks like. I know what blue looks like. And yours was like purple. And I'm like, because it's not a different chemical, so there's one blue for it.
Okay, if somebody took the time to put a timestamp, or what do you call like a logo, a watermark? If somebody took the time to go into a program and put a watermark on their photo, I can guarantee you they've altered it. Yeah, they juiced it up, man. Nobody puts a watermark on their photo and hasn't juiced that photo. Like, I used to think penthouse photos were like natural too, but then I saw the real thing and I was like, it's kind of disappointing.
Correct.
But better in certain ways, but disappointing in some ways.
Yeah, they're just gonna, that's what they want to do. That's what we want, right? That's what.
Yeah, see, you got me on the subject of porn stars earlier.
We don't. I mean, we don't really want to watch Ron Jeremy unless we're watching the whole movie, and he's hilarious.
I never look at his face. That's okay.
Don't.
Okay, we should stop.
Anyway.
We'll get banned off the whole tube.
Okay, so there's some good takeaways. I mean, you make me a little sad because I just bought all the gear and I was really just ready to I just wanted to upload a million things.
That's not my point. No, that's not. Don't get me wrong. That's not my point. I'm trying to make, because you can use that for other stuff.
Yeah.
What my point is, and that we're on the same page. Just wait. ITS sequences are great, and the techniques that you use to get that ITS sequence are exactly the same. So after we move past ITS, this is the last time we can find other super variable, hyper variable regions where we can do the fingerprinting. That electrophoresis gel and that thermocycler, they are exactly the same thing. Right. Exactly the same. Like,
because all those temperatures you hit, right? It's annealing, and that doesn't change. Maybe the time and stuff
the
like
thermocycler is just like a elaborate water bath. Like the original Cary Mullis, when he did PCR, he had 3 water baths. One for denaturing, one for annealing, and one for extension. And he kept moving the tube from the 3 water baths. That was the thermocycler of Cary Mullis. And obviously you don't want to do that. But no, it's an incubator. It's for other enzyme cuts. It's for other polymerase reactions. It goes on and on. That kit that you've got there is not just... This is the point. Right. That's not just for ITS sequences. SSU, RPB, and maybe you want to even outsource. I hate to say it, but you can make a small business. Like, you can sequence other stuff besides cubes. Mm-hmm. Like, people will bring you their stuff, and a lot of ecologists. You're kind of just getting started, but this is like a whole can of worms.
Right.
Like if you want to take a soil sample and you want to figure out what's in that soil sample, you can extract the DNA and you can sequence it. And for something that you don't even have a fruit body for, you can see like there's trichoderma in there, there's Pasilomyces, there's cordyceps. There's like so much you can do with that kit that you got. Don't. I'm not trying to poo-poo on the.
Oh no!
ITS.
Don't worry. You're not gonna stop me. But I think it is worth saying though that understanding what noise is and understanding what quality analysis and alignment are, that those are important things to learn. And like Alan Rockefeller has a fungal sequencing channel or a group on Facebook, and a lot of the questions are usually more sophisticated questions about alignment and analysis that the more experienced guys who do this for a living can then like say, well, show me the chromatogram and I can give you some feedback on it. And so I've already seen quickly that it takes some experience to do that. So obviously you got to put in the time and sequence stuff and look at chromatograms and align sequences and learn. But that I imagine it's not rocket science.
Well, people have been talking about these handheld sequencers like for years, and then you put in something and that's okay for identifying things. So one of the cool things about ITS sequences, it will identify to species very very like rapidly. And I mean, once you've got a sequence, and if you had a handheld sequencer, you just put in your sample, boop, and it kicks it out and does the search automatically probably, and it'll tell you what it is. But then it's also kind of back to the, like, if I tell you the Latin name for, like, pink-eyed or blue-eyed, what are they, yellow-eyed Susans, or like, if I say this is, it's Artemisia annua, like, how long are you going to remember that? Oh, yeah, that's Artemisia annua. Like, you probably forgot it already, right? Like, if I get my DNA sequence, it's like, Artemisia annua. Oh, that's nice. Okay, let's go eat. Like, there's a certain level of people that you have to gauge, like, how much they give a crap.
Right.
Like, again, I was watching a houseplant lady, and she was talking about antheridiums and nepenthes and going on and on and on with these Latin names, and she was nice to look at, so you kept listening. Sure. But in all honesty, once you start throwing out Latin names like Lactifluus velimus, it's like, wait, wasn't it Lactarius? No, now it's Lactifluus. And then people are like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I'm a moron. I don't know, it really takes a certain type of person, like maybe anal retentive. Do they still use that word?
Sure. I do. I use it to describe my coworkers all the time. Yeah. God.
Well, there
I
you
use
go.
other words to describe.
Start feeding. Yeah, I got a lot of adjectives and things for description. Start feeding them cubes and get them on that fucking DNA sequencing, man.
Yes.
Get them all jacked up on chlorophyll and C-tab buffers, and then they're like.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. They'll be a whole different person.
Probably.
Yeah.
The chloroform might help too. Don't give them too much though.
For a while.
So we got off track, and I think we are way off track.
It's all good. We did good. I think we covered a lot. I think so. I think actually we got into not as much of the how-to, but we exposed people to Blast and Mega 11, and we talked about some attitudes that I think are important to talk about. So anybody that's interested, again, you can go to YouTube, look up, how to run a Blast sequence. There are hundreds of YouTube videos about this. Absolutely, all you got to do is put in a little bit of time, figure out how to pull these up. You can get the sequences and then paste those into Mega 11, and you're really playing the game like a very rudimentary level. You're not really analyzing much yet, but you're getting your feet wet and step one. And then if that looks fun, then you can start buying a bunch of shit like I did and wander around the woods, bump into Alan Rockefeller.
Yeah, it's addictive, to be honest.
Yeah.
When you start downloading, when you get those sequences into the Mega program and you start seeing all the colors, it's almost like a video game, almost kind of thing.
Oh, and dude, the first time I saw it, I was like, it's like a Candy Crush.
Yeah,
You know,
that's it.
yeah, they made
Exactly.
it like Candy Crush or something.
Yeah, you can just scoot things over and delete things, and
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
this the people I showed yesterday, they were like what is this? I'm so bored. And then when they started, the one girl, like, I like butterflies, and I'm like, well, search for butterflies. And the
yeah,
dude's like, I like to eat pigs, and I'm like, search for pigs. I'm like,
right.
you can
And then
search
they
for
were in it.
anything, man.
That's all it
They were
took.
totally in it.
Yeah,
Like we had to leave. We went to a computer lab. They like kicked us out because we were like overtime. I'm like, well, okay, bye. But
right.
you can do it. Like I think you could do it on like a phone even. Like I'm not sure. I don't want to mess with the phone doing that stuff. But on a PC, man, it worked brilliantly. I know you said maybe you had trouble on the Macs or something, but
I
you
can't.
just got to go
All
in
it.
and
I think it was just the way I was copy pasting it because I played around a little more with it today and it seemed to be fine. So I don't know what happened that first day.
I think they might have tweaked it a bit because we've been talking about this for a couple months. I think the last version that I downloaded yesterday worked like seamlessly, no
Yeah.
problems at all.
It's pretty robust for being a free program.
Oh yeah, like
It's pretty
anything you
crazy what
need,
it can do.
anything you need to do is in that program.
Yeah.
Like you could, I mean, I hate to overextend our sort of. You could literally go on there, do what they call data mining.
Yeah.
Like a guy was asking me about Paniolus the other day. I forgot, it was somebody on the Discord. They wanted to know about Paniolus bisporus and cyanescens.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'll just go look on GenBank. And I looked on GenBank, and there's hundreds of Paniolus species
Right.
on there. And within literally like a half hour, I generated a whole Paniolus tree
Right.
from stuff that was on GenBank. So when people out there, okay, if you are one of those, double swab people, or you want to make a new interspecific hybrid,
Right.
you can go onto GenBank and literally within minutes, you don't have to ask these questions. You can figure them out yourself.
Yeah.
If you want to create a tree like Alan Rockefeller did, or one of these people that, these really, really well-funded labs, that information, if you have seen it in a paper, one of the requirements for publication is to submit those sequences to GenBank.
Yes.
So you can literally go in there and pull the exact same sequence from that paper. It'll have what's called an accession number.
Yep.
It'll say like QK 1.00. It's like, I don't know, about an 8 or 9 digit number. And you can go and pull it down in the FASTA file, pump it into Mega, do that for
Right.
like 50 of them, and you became a home phylogeneticist is what they're
Yeah.
called, or a systematist.
Right.
So add that to your list. You're a mycologist, a systematist, and I don't know, farmer.
All the is.
yeah,
all the
yeah,
S.
exactly.
Getting all of them.
Just not
But-
the good.
But there are people who I can't remember what I read, but that's all it was a published paper, and all they did was mine the information and had something to say about it, and I was like, holy crap, they didn't have to even be funded, they just needed some time
Exactly.
and farted around and figured some stuff out
That's the future. It's
and
just like
published. Yeah,
these are like 20-year-old computer geeks that have been sitting in their mom's basement for the last 8 years playing like Call of Duty, and then they're like, "Hey, let me try this mushroom thing."
Mm-hmm.
and
and
then
they're like,
publishing-
Ron Carlson, who? Get the
Yeah,
fuck out of here!
exactly.
Let me
They
show
don't
you
know.
what I can do with DNA. Yeah,
I'll get Ron on them. I'll come smack them around a bit in their parents' basement.
we should have a This
You know what
Is
a
Your
type-
Life ad and bring Ron on. He's still alive. He seems still
Yeah.
pretty sprightly.
I
to be
don't
quite
think
honest.
he's ever gonna die. He's like immortal. I think he's like sold his soul to the devil.
Yeah.
But like, we'll have him go slap around some 18-year-old kids. Be like, do you know what a type specimen is, bitch? It's a fucking lectotype.
It's not a holotype. That's only an isotype. Right.
I went to France to find that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the stuff people don't get is the level of like getting it right.
Yeah,
get it.
it takes a lot to get it right. And that's where Ron, I mean, as much of a jerk as he was sometimes, he was right. He's one of those people when he tells you something and you're like, 5 years later, you're like, fuck you, he was right. Yeah.
It's kind
he
of
was
like
right.
when Whitebeard was like, when I asked him about ethics, the first thing out of his mouth was, I'm sick of people asking me how to grow mushrooms. I take the time to tell them, and then they don't do anything I told them to do. And I
Dude,
was
he
like,
nailed that. He nailed
Yeah.
that. That is like I've gotten frustrated, or like he said, you'll see somebody will send you a DM with the same question, and then you go on a Facebook group and they've asked the same verbatim question
They're-
to like
they're
three
like,
other groups.
It's like they're mining data.
I know. I feel like
They're
I
just
got,
mining it.
dude, I got paranoid a couple times. I'm like, are they trying to like find out if I'm like a different person, or like am I like it
No,
makes
they want consensus. So I can actually, I don't do this, but I can relate to this because when I watched a lot of YouTube videos, at a certain point, I'm amalgamating all the information and going, oh, okay, this is what everybody's saying, so that must be true, and that must be like something that's pretty unwavering, and then these things no one can agree on. Like there's no perfect grain. You know, even though I love popcorn right now, there's no perfect grain. It's just the one I like. That's fine. But like mycelium doesn't really care as long as there's some nutrition in there. They're gonna chew it up.
See, we know that, but other people, like maybe a 17-year-old kid doesn't know that quite
Yeah.
yet.
So they want to be. There's so much tribalism in this community where it's like,
Yeah.
fuck bags, fucking tubs, bro. Or, you know what I mean? Like, just all that stuff where it's like, popcorn's too expensive.
A little silly.
Right. They want to click up about everything, and it's just like, it doesn't matter. But I think that's what people are doing. Instead of just going, well, I've seen a lot of pictures of Ed's mushrooms, and he's got a PhD, probably knows how to grow mushrooms. They don't do that. They go, I'm going to ask Geeky, I'm going to ask Ed, I'm going to ask Slightly Feral, I'm going to ask this guy, I'm going to ask that guy. And then I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want to do anyway.
I know, well, that's
what
the
they do.
frustrating thing, is then they don't do what, and then like in a month they'll be like, oh, I did that and it didn't work. It's like, did you really do that? Or did you, like you said, amalgamate like six different people's opinions?
Oh yeah,
and then
Whitebeard just nailed it tonight. He was like, they just do it. They just then start picking and choosing and create their own like not attack, and then wonder why it doesn't work.
Yeah, sure. He like pretty much everything he said was like spot on. I was like, wow, preach, brother.
Yeah, he's very open-minded, and I didn't actually realize that we kind of went through a similar journey, at least as far as all this new stuff. But I still think there's a lot of people out there where there's just like a guy who still grows mushrooms in his basement or his shed, and like he's still not on Shroomery. And he's not on YouTube. And he like doesn't. He just is this lone mushroom grower. I know they're still out there.
I think they are, man. It's like those.
But
dudes
I want to
up
find
north.
those guys because
Yeah,
I want to hear their stories.
Those guys up in Northern Cali that are still like probably supplying all of Southern California.
Yeah.
That like just live in a cabin out in the woods.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but like he said too about the I feel a little bad because I was young too, and I sort of dissed other people's like techs or procedures. Or I remember one time proudly like announcing that like nutritional yeast was the key to rhizomorphic growth, and it was like, oh, I feel like a jackass now for even writing that. Like, like everybody knows that, but I didn't, and I thought I discovered something like brand new.
Yeah.
Like, you know. Like,
you did.
Yeah, like he said.
You did for yourself.
Well, I did, yeah, but I shouldn't have proclaimed it to the...
Right.
And that's the other thing, too. I got in a little bit of a thing with Guy yesterday about parafilm. Like, people who discover parafilm, they're like, oh my god, like, parafilm is like God's gift to mycology. It's like, nah, you come on, man. Right. Really? Do we have to go there? Like I've wrapped a few plates in my life. I had a ball of parafilm this big. Like during grad school, like I know what parafilm is, and I know what food wrap is, and I know the costs and etc. And this guy was like, parafilm for the win. Like, really? Okay, yeah. Go waste several $1,000s on parafilm, and then come back like 3 years from now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say who, but I just got some plates in that were electrical taped. And my initial thought was, this what the fuck? And then I was like, wait, this might be really great. This might be a really cool way to wrap plates. I might start doing this.
I thought about it too.
Yeah.
Here, everybody knows about grafting tape, but also a lot of people here use micropore tape because they think the culture needs to breathe. Like the expensive micropore tape.
Oh.
I don't know why, but it got started here. It's silly, and I wish people would stop. But a lot of times, if you trade cultures here, you'll get them wrapped in micropore tape, and I don't know why. It's like some myth that started. It peels off easily. That's why maybe it's not like sticky.
Yeah.
So I guess that might be the reason why people use it. I don't know. Buy it everywhere. It's sterile, maybe. I guess.
It all works. It's just
electrical tape, man.
Yeah.
Electrical tape for the win!
Dude, electrical tape, that shit was, I promise you this, no contamination was getting in that plate at all.
I know. Well, I thought before they need oxygen, like everybody tells you. Man, not really. Like, you can keep, I've got plates that I've wrapped with food wrap that I opened one that was 6 months old the other day. I subbed it, and within 2 days, it just started back up.
Well,
now, if I would have done that...
The mic does that, though, right?
Yeah.
Think about nature. I mean, there's a lot of parts of the ground, there's no fucking air in there, and there's mic in there.
Yep. It just kind of hibernates. Same with that sterile water, like long-term storage.
Yeah, man, when you told me about the sterile water, that I was like, there you go.
Somebody posted something about 30 years. They had found these cultures in some cupboard that were 30 years old, and like almost 50% of them came back.
Wow.
So yeah, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, as they say.
Yeah. Because again, all the mics out there, it's growing all over the place. Various soils and soil makeups and So
well, I figure we talked about this before. In 6 months, we'll probably have like 100 new cultigens anyway, so it won't really matter.
Well, yeah. Well, in a year from now, we're just going to have Slightly Feral back on, and then there'll be a whole new batch of people hearing about erythritol, and they're going to be like, "Oh, bro, erythritol." Right? It's just because there's new people. This is what I tell people every day. There's new people getting into this. They're brand new. They're starting their journey, so it's all good.
Yeah. Exactly. I just bought like $25 worth of vitamin D3. I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do with that. I'll throw it in there. FAFO or whatever. FAFO, yeah. I don't know. I saw something randomly about vitamin D3. I'm like, hey, let me go buy that off the Shopee Amazon thing they got here. It's for human consumption. Maybe I'll eat it to get my bones strong or something.
Yeah, rub it on your skin. Go out in the sun.
To rack up some of it and see what it does. Yeah. So, I don't know. Did you? Should we even try getting into any? Yeah, it was almost.
I think
like
we're good. I mean, I think the tone has. The tone now to get back into this late in the game is probably not worth it. Right. So we will. We have given people some homework. They could read the article. They can come with questions about the article, which would be fantastic. We'd love questions. You can download Mega 11 and play around with Blast, and come back, and next week Ed can answer questions, and we can start getting into how you really do it and what's really going on in there, and that'll be the next step.
If like you said, exactly what you just said, people download that thing and just get a file with a bunch of sequences in it, and they're gonna have questions immediately.
Yeah.
They will immediately have questions like, how do I align this, and what do I chop off, and what?
Right.
There's a lot of things that'll pop up, and that would be cool.
Yeah, man. If people spent 1 hour watching 5 shorter YouTube videos and grab some blasts and down, I mean, you wouldn't even have to put a massive amount of effort into it. If it remotely interests you, an hour or two, and you have figured some stuff out, and you will have generated some questions, and we can talk about them next week.
That's it. You might get addicted to it. It's a warning. You might get addicted to downloading sequences. Once you start, you'll download those first 5 or 10 and make your first little tree. And then you'll be like, what about Paniolus? What about Stropharia? What about Gymnopolis? What about Inocebi?
And then you'll be like,
Yeah, it'll cascade or blow up.
Yep.
It'll mushroom.
It'll mushroom. It'll myceliate. Or mushroom.
Yep, for sure.
Either way.
For
Cool, man.
sure.
Well, thanks. It's always fun. It always digresses, which is kind of what I hope now. I always want there to be a moment where I get red in the face from cracking up. So we did that again. It was good. So next week, I got no big deal. Just got a neurosurgeon coming on. Just a brain surgeon.
Oh,
yeah. I think we're going to talk a little bit about his life and his journey, and why he's interested in psilocybin and medical marijuana and all that kind of stuff. But, this guy knows a couple things. So we're going to talk about psilocybin in the brain, and I think his perspective is going to be pretty cool. So stay tuned for that. Ed's going to be back. We will get more geeky. All right. Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, man. Thanks
All
to
right.
Whitebeard too. Bye
Oh,
bye.
yeah. All right, guys. Let me pull off my thing here. Well, thanks so much for sticking around. That one went super long. It happens when you can always tell the people I'm really comfortable with and love talking to. It always goes long. Thank you so much for sticking around. We still got 111 of you guys hanging out. Again, shout out to my buddy Royce for this amazing sculpture of the Rainbow Ghost. Every time I'm working in the lab, whether I'm pouring plates or doing transfers, it's just really cool to get to see the ghost up there. And it's a reminder of the great people that I have met and our little community that we've built on Discord. It's really great. Anyway, till next week, take care, guys.